Встречайте новую карту для жизни от ВТБ и делайте лучше каждый день.
Понедельник день тяжелый.
Но оформить бесплатную карту легко, а пользоваться бесплатно выгодно.
Вторник, день второй.
Делитесь бесплатными переводами и чувствами.
Среда – маленькая пятница.
Позвольте себе больше с большим кэшбэком.
Четверг – рыбный день.
Ловите 1000 рублей после первой покупки по карте.
Пятницы.
Моя очередь и кэшбэк мой.
Делайте лучше каждый день. Оформите новую карту для жизни на vtb.ru.
В этом сезоне нас постигла участь моношина.
Я, в принципе, изначально понимал, что это правильное решение.
Ужасно, отвратительно. Хуже у меня в жизни не было.
Это пределы трассы!
В целом мне всегда вообще я еду так, как мне удобно.
Все довольны. Все проезды близкие.
У меня получится все-таки заехать на тумбу, вот, и победить всех парней с форварда.
Мы все понервничали очень сильно. Я, наверное, переживал больше, чем за себя.
Надо побеждать. Вот за этим каждый из нас сюда приезжает.
Happy New Drift, dear friends. Hello and welcome to ADM Raceway. This is the autodrome that is hosting the fourth stage of Russian Drift Series 2023. And ahead we've got the qualifying round. Unfortunately, we have lost some of our participants on the way, except besides Vladislav Shubadyorov that we mentioned yesterday. In the evening, we also lost Stepan Azarov. And that's the drive shaft again. all those jokes from the first stage about the drive shaft battle, and perhaps this will be the new name for our documentary series, turn true now, and the drive shafts keep letting our drivers down. And now you can see our painting team that were finishing the lines that mark the judges' task. These are the personal standings. Some serious changes have happened after the previous stage. At Igora Drive, Anton Kozlov, the leader of the personal standings, dropped to the third line, overpassed by Charles Eng and Georgy Chevchan. But the difference in the score is not that big, and everything may change even within one stage, because the gap between the first and second and third lines are not more than 50 points. In the second 10, we've got Evgeny Losev. Damir Diatulin is very deep in the second 10 of the participants. And if you just woke up after the winter hibernation, perhaps you're as surprised as I am, because the beginning of this season has been quite turbulent. In the first 3 stages have been very unpredictable, and this 4th stage is not just the equator, because we've got 7 stages altogether. This is a sort of a borderline for all the drivers who are still planning to get into this battle for the leadership. They've got to win, they've got to do it, and this is what is very important for our previous leaders like Roman Tivadar, Evgeny Losev, Damir Diatulin and others. There are lots of them, and this is the team standings. Takayama Forward Auto is the leader. On one hand, it's quite common to see them on top, but secondly, they do not always win. Start Stars Aimol that seriously improved their position after the St. Petersburg stage, when Charles Eng won and Dmitry Yermohin came third. And Carville Racing, with its locomotive Anton Kozlov, who stormed into the top of Russian drifting. He amazed everyone. He is absolutely stunning, and all the masters of our sport are simply amazed by his performance. He is a rookie, but so are the rookies of Fail Crew Dark Side, Ilya Popov and Vladislav Popov, who joined Arkady Tseregrasov this year. They gain more and more confidence. Vladislav has been in top 8 in Nizhny Novgorod already. So we can't wait to see the continue of this exciting battle. This is exactly what we want to see. This is what we come here for. We want to see more and more of that. We've got several seconds left before the beginning of the qualifying. Hello, everyone. Let us show our viewers the magazine, since you can see us. We've got lots of interesting stuff to show. This season, we started a new tradition. This is a magazine that we issue before each stage. It's full of interesting information about drifting, about our drivers. We've got a big section dedicated to the drivers, which you can take to the autograph session. These magazines are available at Rds shop, online and offline. Oh, please order, buy the magazines, and make a collection. Our official sponsor is Aimol Company, the manufacturer of premium motor oils. They also started a new competition for the viewers. And this is about predicting the leader of the qualifying. You've got a chance to win some valuable prizes. So please follow the social media of Aimol Company and Start Pro Stars Aimol team, and you will find everything out. So please take part, win our prizes. And now in the burnout area, we can see Lexus V8 with Denis Smigal on board. We have just met him outside right before the beginning of the qualifying, and I asked him, I had a feeling that you were kind of afraid of pressing the gas, of going full throttle. And also, after the JZ, the sound of the car is very different. But he said that everything was going fine, and he just took some time for him to get used to the sound as well. Anton Dmitrienko with a new engine after the failures that he had in St. Petersburg. He performed very well during the practice, and now he's already in the OZ, and he leaves it a little bit too early. Then he makes a transition, a little late, but still he gathers the first in the touch and go. He's got one wheel outside the track, nose at 3. He makes one transition, another one. Here you're supposed to press the gas before the second touch and go, and here he is. He finishes this qualifying. It looked very dynamic. The second touch and go is really tiny. It's the size of a matchbox, and it's kind of tricky. You need to get it. You need to go very solid. Anton Dmitrienko made a serious correction in the first sector. Then he narrowed down the line. It wasn't very smooth, really. We could see that Anton's best qualifying position was 13th. It was in 2022 on the second stage. And this year, he was 15th in Nizhny Novgorod. That was his best result and so far. By the way, speaking about the initiation, the judges were also very serious about it, and they instructed the drivers that the initiation must be very clear and sharp without corrections after the angle comes in. Once you've got the angle, if it's a little bit more than medium, but the task doesn't require it to be more than medium, you've got to hold that angle, keep it up, and reducing it is not acceptable. And this is the sin that Anton Dmitrienko didn't commit, but there was some little slip at the end. And as for the second transition, there were some very serious movements, and at yesterday's briefing, the judges still asked the drivers to do as many tandem runs as possible to see what actions of the leader would be better for the chaser, which movements of the leader would keep this drifting tandem, what the leader needs to do to make drifting comfortable for the chaser. Now you see Boris Abramov, he changed his car for the car he drives in Rds Europe. So if you watch Rds Europe, you know this one, and also he doesn't take part in Rds Europe anymore now, because you cannot use the same car in Rds Gp and Rds Europe. Once it's been used in Rds Gp, you cannot get it back to Rds Europe. And the number of his cars is also limited. On one hand, I thought he had all cars possible, but no. And now this is the result of Anton Dmitrienko. He's got 74 points for the first run, which is, well, he made quite a lot of mistakes, including line mistakes. We could all see it, and the judges saw it as well. Let us introduce the drivers, Maxim Akhlyamov, Anton Novikov, and Vladimir Safonov. The judges panel is the same throughout the season. Here comes Boris Abramov, and he accelerates. This is a super light car, so it uses the smaller tires, and this is the car that Krista Blush drove in 2021 for the Local Race 15. The first transition was very vague, and he's late to OZA 2, and here as well the line is too narrow. He needs more inertia and more speed to push the car where it's supposed to be. The deceleration zone, and in the deceleration zone the left rear wheel comes outside. So within one single run, Boris Abramov overdid and underdid everything that he could. The weight of the car together with the driver is 1,140 kilograms, and I think it lacks some grip. Boris Abramov selected the tire with a width of 245, and I would really like to see a more aggressive manner to get the car where it's supposed to be. But if you break the line in one place, it breaks everywhere. So one mistake, it yields the other ones. And if you break the line at the beginning, you make it worse and worse throughout the round. But this is the first qualifying round. Of course, Boris has done some practice in the morning, but we could see that he is not doing very well on this new car yet. And the initiation wasn't very fast either. gradually the drivers were gaining more and more speed in the run-in. From the start to the finish, the course length is 740 meters and 200 meters is the run-in. The judges kept saying that they shortened it, but I went down and checked, and it is 10 meters longer than it was previously. But Evgeny Losev, our ambassador of big run-ins, I think he also noticed it. And yesterday the drivers finally reached the speed of 170 kilometers per hour at the initiation. In the morning it was slightly cooler, so the speeds also went down. And at the warm-up it was like 160, and Boris Abramov's speed was 156. Okay, 66 points for Boris Abramov, but this is a result of a productive run, which means that he will go to top 32. He has booked a place for himself and for his team, and maybe in the second run he can improve his performance. And now we're ready to see Evgeny Spirin from VST. And so let's go. He had some exhaust problem yesterday, but he handled it and he sorted it out. This is a very slow transition with one wheel outside the track, and here he was supposed to make the transition, and he started the process, but he didn't finish it on time. And finally one transition, second transition, and it looks like the car is 2,000 kilograms heavy, because it looks lazy, it looks very awkward. I wonder how much it really weighs. Let's check it out while we've got some time. I would say that this is the best qualifying run of this season for Evgeny Spirin. Definitely. As the judges said, it's better to have a little bit outside than just missing the clipping zone completely. And as far as the transition before the unit touch and go is concerned, there was a funny formulation. You are supposed to make the transition a little bit earlier than you wanted. That's what the judges said. And if you want to train yourself, imagine that you are a judge. I will give you a little reference point. This is the first OZ and transition to the second. It is also supposed to be a little bit sharper, but you need to keep your angle stable. And there is some old mark from the previous RDS Europe mark from the previous year. And there is a little touch and go that's almost erased, so you need to finish the transition before that old marking. But this is not a reference point for this judge's task. You're not supposed to look at it, but this is a little reference point for spotters and for the judges, just to understand the right moment. This is when the transition needs to be over. On one hand, the logic says that the earlier the better. Once you're out from the second zone, you need to keep your angle stable, because you may lose your speed and make a trap for the chaser. You need to start the transition a little earlier than you want. But if you go too early, then you'll find yourself in the no-go zone, which is also not very good. So every time our judges offer more and more challenging tasks and demand more and more precision from the drivers. And the run-in limitation is also another tool for keeping the drivers under control. So this is 79 points for Evgeny Spirin. I wouldn't say this is a bad result. This is the best result we have seen so far, and the best result for Evgeny Spirin. And this is just the first group. But in every group we've got a driver who can jump to the top of the qualifying. And this makes it even more interesting. And now let's see Sergei Kabargin. He also had some problems with the VR of his flanker. And after he leaves OZ, he gets 2 points penalty for this. Oh, and yes, I think he was too far, but one wheel was still on the track. Just never mind that zone, keep the car on the asphalt and get back to the track, says the GPS of Sergei Kabargin, and finally he makes the controlled finish, even though the angle was far too deep. Sergei Kabargin is a very creative man. We all know him. He's a musician as well. He's an engineer, and a very nice and creative mind, a big dreamer, a visioner, as we call him. But globally, I saw his first transition, he made it in a sort of interesting way. He didn't start making the transition from OZ1 to OZ2 right away. He shifted a little bit inside, and then he made the transition to make sure he gets the OZ2. And what happened later, the inside touch and go, everything that happened there, and the successive problems in the third outside clip, this, of course, made me almost have a heart attack. Yeah, this is the moment. This is the wrong vector that was set up. He had to shift to the left and do the transition, and then he would get the apex. At the end of the inner touch and go, you need to get there to find the right vector to OZ3. But Sergei Leonidovich failed that. He went too early to the inside touch and go, and this is why he found himself so much outside. But if one wheel was still inside, this would be a productive run. But while we are watching these replays, let's enjoy the flanker F. Last stage, we saw the first victory of flanker F and the stage of Rds Gp. Flanker F is a unique project because this is a hypercar that was designed and created in Russia, and now we can see that this car has a potential for victories. It did take us some time to discover that potential, but Sergei Kabargin is not the biggest car manufacturer in the world, but well, of course, who knows what he turns into after some time. But yes, there were some iteration in the development of the car, and finally the first victory has been achieved, which means that you can use it to win. And Charles has been to the finals before, and Sergei Kabargin has got to top 4 on this flanker, if I'm not mistaken. 15 out of 35, yeah, this is not surprise, only 50 points. And this is the maximum penalization that can be given by the judges. Because if it's more, it would have been a 0. Which means that we can wait until Sergei Kabargin improves his performance. This is Denis Smigal and his V8 that spent 3 stages with the Mirdiaturin. And now Denis Smigal is driving this car. After having got used to that soundtrack, he presses the gas and makes a backward and spins around. I hope there is no technical damage. I hope he can get outside himself, but he decided not to risk it. And I think that this is very wise of him. I hope there is no any obvious reason for him to do so. I hope the car is still okay. But yeah, it will take us some time until the track is cleaned from the debris. Yes, you can see that he was pressing the gas, and then at the moment when the rear wheel started spinning, he let the gas go. And yes, he did turn. Maybe there was some inertia of that process, but the angle was very excessive and he didn't have enough turn in. You could see that Denis could feel that his rear part went very wrong and he didn't do anything. He could feel that it would be impossible to save. And yes, it looked like it seemed like he could stay on the asphalt, and I'm sure that he could get outside on himself, but maybe it's not that obvious when you're inside the car. He decided not to risk it, not to bring more debris to the asphalt, not to damage the car even more. So while the track cleaning is in process, we could take a small advertising break and then come back to you and see what happens next.
they can never touch this. So they let me talk my shit, or I might just throw another fit.
We are back to ADM Raceway. We continue the first run of the first stage, or the first group of the fourth stage of Russian Drift Series. And here comes Anatoly Sherbak and his Silvia S15. Clean look. It's amazing how much effort it takes to make a car look nice in a clean look. There is no firewall because there is a special case in the front part to host all the combustible elements, and now you can see Anatoly Sherbak moving very slowly through the transition. The second outside clip is left behind, and now it looks like he's almost in time to do the transition, but he misses the inside touch and go, and then he enters the also 3 very late. Oh, and one transition, second transition. The deceleration zone here, he was supposed to open after the second dotted line, but how many mistakes did he make? I think it was at least 7. It looks like Anatoly decided to get them all, like Pokemons. But at least I can see that the steering system of Anatoly Sherbak now works fine, and he feels comfortable on board his car. But in this run, he didn't do everything right. Especially, he ignored many parts of the line. He's one of the few who didn't get the inside touch and go. He's the only one in the first group who missed it. But I'm sure that in the second run, he can do it much, much better. And as far as this case is concerned, in the firewall that is absent, this is really so. But in the first stage, the problem was that Anatoly Sherbak didn't pass the qualifying because he had too much smoke inside the car. This problem has been fixed since then. So it was a clean look, but it was slightly cloudy. So the car was white outside and inside as well, which is not preferable. But now we can see Anatoly, we can see the car through, and he made a lot of effort to keep this clean look. This is the only Silvia in our series that looks like that. Anatoly really knows how to do it. He really cares about the aesthetics of the car. But at the same time, he has the safety case and everything. But this is a very interesting car indeed. But I think that the left rear wheel acted kind of funny. Maybe that is the low pressure in the tire. Maybe that is why I have this impression, like something is wrong in the angle. 70 points for the first run. This is the end of the first run in the first group, and now we are ready to proceed to number 2. We've got one self-safe session of Denis Migal. I am sure that he can make it and he can get to the finish, but this far we watch Anton Dmitrienko. He opened the first run and he will do the same now. Here we begin. This is a Silvia S15 built by Forward Auto with a very evil 2JZ engine under the hood. Another 2-step initiation, wrong line through exit 1, and very narrow exit from exit 2. It doesn't look like his practice runs at all. This looks like a complete failure, but still he gets the inner touch and go. An almost correct line on the second Adidas of exit 3 to get the maximum, but whoa. But this is a 0. Finally, this is a 0 in the second run after 74 points for the first. Anton Dmitrienko simply decided to greet the audience, I think. He wanted to wave his hand to the audience. By the way, ADM Raceway is the perfect location for watching drifting competitions because the audience stands are located along the SS section of the track. The first curves are kind of far away from the audience, but the third and the others are very close to the stands, and I'm sure that the spectators love it. Unfortunately, Anton Bitrienko cannot improve his performance, but now we've got Boris Abramov. This is his second run. He had 66 points for the first one. Start per stars IMO team, and his hood is still making the thing. And now he makes a transition. One wheel is outside the white line, and now he needs to make nice and clear transition. He almost does that. He just touches the inside touch and go to get it. Then also 3. Bravo, and here is the final deceleration zone. He is late with the gas and almost loses it. This is why he makes a finish like this. Let us watch Yevgeny speed instead of comparing two runs of Boris Abramov. At least he's here, which means that his car is okay, but I may use my memory. I remember the first run of Boris Abramov quite well, and he made a very similar mistake at the finish in his first run. Here we may think about the way you pass touch and go 2 and touch and go 3, because if you repeat the same mistake over and over again, then it means that there is some sort of tendency, some system. Some drivers do not like changing something between the runs too much. They know that they're not perfect, they know that they make some mistakes, but changing something in between the runs during the competition is not a good idea either. Boris Abramov still makes it a top 32, and maybe he can make it even better, but that handbrake can cost him quite a lot. Style-wise, Vladimir Safonov may penalize him for that. But Vladimir Safonov, let Vladimir Safonov do his work and we will do ours. Here he didn't lose half of the car outside the track, just a little bit, but still we need to remark that in a tandem run, such behavior would definitely be very uncomfortable for the chaser, because the chaser would logically expect some stability, some stable acceleration and a stable finish, and such a move and such a strange leap and the angle outside the finishing line would really be a cause for different incidents on track. He would be standing in the way of the chaser. He is supposed to gain speed, not lose it. Also, if he spins after the finishing line, it would very likely to be a 0, because this is called an uncontrolled finish, and Boris Abramov was half a step away from it. And if we get it to the right moment, this transition, then another one, and here we've got a deceleration zone where you're allowed to lose some speed. And let me take the courage and say that you need to lose a little bit of speed, like 10 kilometers per hour, to open it up later and get to the final sector. And Boris Abramov, as a circuit racer, needs to understand that the deceleration zone is made for a reason, to gain more speed after and to get through the next section in a more efficient way. This is a slow enter and fast exit, and you are supposed to keep your speed at the control, to lose it, to decrease it, and then increase it up again. Here comes Evgeny Spirin from Fiat's team, and this is his second run. I think the beginning was slightly better than the previous one, but we will compare it later. OZ1 is not the widest ever, but it will do. It was okay. He misses the inside touch and go. He slides along the outside border of the track, and now he dances along the white line with his rear wheel. One transition quite clear. The second one, and this is the last section. And once again, he looks like he's dancing. And now the first run of Evgeny Spirin was 79 points, and Evgeny did ride a lot outside the track throughout his run. And what his hood does is very similar to Boris Abramov's car. in a way. And here you can see that he missed the inside touch go on a purpose, but I know that he didn't. It just worked out this way. And it looks like this is not a Sylvia-style transition. I think that this platform, the S13, is supposed to move slightly differently. I mean, in this zone where you've got two transitions, one after another, Sylvia should move differently. It looks like he's got some excessive grip on the front axle. We'll speak more about the suspension tomorrow during the break, and we've got a pre-race before top 32, so we've got a lot of interesting things planned for today and tomorrow. But now we're watching this very interesting replay. We see more and more smoke after each next run, and it means that the power has gone up, and moreover the asphalt is warming, and it gets more and more rubber on top. And now this is a sort of a guessing game, because the warm-up was done on the cool asphalt, and now it's getting hotter and hotter. He's got 29 points for the line out of 35, which is not very bad. It's quite good. He couldn't improve his performance either, but well, 78, 79, almost the same. And now, what is happening now? We are not getting back to the start. Let's take another advertising break, and then we will continue.
Если радио, то максимум.
Welcome back to ADM Raceway, and we continue the qualifying round of the fourth stage Rds Gp 2023, and this is Sergei Kabargin on the starting line and his flanker F. that made us worry in the first run, but still he brought 50 points to the finish, which means that he booked a seat for himself in top 32. But this is time to fight for a better position in this qualifying. Also, this union of the driver and the flanker can do it, and now he's back to the track. And now you can see Sergei Kabargin sliding through the OZ2. He seems to have got it correctly, and one wheel outside the track doesn't mean anything compared to what happened in the previous one. But the inside touch and go, he runs into OZ1, and now his line looks much better, and now he's in touch and go too, and he jumps there carefully, but still he repeats the same mistake that was made by Boris Abramov. But now it is much better than previously, and this time Boris Abramov acts as a role model. Yevgeny Spirin also repeats his hood thing, and Sergei Kabargin repeats his ground thing at the finish. And now in real-time mode you can compare his run 1 and run 2, and you can see how much better the second run looks, especially in OZ3, and you can see how faster the entire run looks now. It changes the impression of the run. Also, you can see that the beginning of the run was very different, and it is also worth noticing that due to the design of the flanker with its transmission box on the rear axle, the acceleration of this car is very efficient. It's got more weight on the rear, and this weight is very correctly balanced underneath the car and the bottom, not on the axle itself, but slightly in front of it on the frame. And all these dynamic forces that influence the car, they're very correctly distributed. And sometimes this car does demand a lot from the driver, some very good and very competent driving. But Charles Zhang said that it is a racing car. There are drifting cars, there are racing cars, and he said that this is a racing car. This is why it demands so much from its driver, because sometimes it has some turning problems. This is the onboard cam. It can be installed in different spots. I could see that there are cams all around the car, and this is what you can see from them. You can see the podium of the winners that is waiting for tomorrow. But now you can see that finally Sergei Kabargin has improved his performance. You can see how much the flanker tilted where it was not supposed to. This is not getting outside the track that is bad, because you can drag your chase after you. Oh wow, that's a burnout. Did you see that? But this is also a deceleration, the loss of speed, which your chaser might not expect. 79 points for the second attempt, which is good. There is a big improvement. Of course, I would like to see an 80 plus, but okay, let's wait and see. I'm sure that there will be a lot of it. And now Sergei Kabargin rises to the second line of the current rating, and now Denis Smigal, who has to compensate for his zero. Syntec Fresh Marketplace team. Now, with all of their vibes, they're supporting the leader and the founder of the team. The initiation is not the best. Now he had to knock the brakes and make the car squat on the front axle. Now he misses the inner touch and go, but this is not what matters. He just needs to get to the finish without problems. The OZ3 has been out behind, another transition, and look at this floaty suspension. You can see it very well from here, and the rear left was so close to the wing. Wow. The car is really very responsive to the steering. It is very responsive to the start, to the brake. You can see how its case is humping, how it's swinging. And this is the specificity of the setup. This Alteza chassis looks very disobedient. And I think that Damir Yaturin can open Alteza Studies Institute. He knows everything about this platform indeed. It is worth noticing that the angle is very, very medium. It's very, very average in the first outside zone. But as we have already noticed, this is not about angles, this is not about lines, it's just about getting any point at all, and I think that Denis makes it brilliantly. He did have some challenges on the way, but this is about the result, and the result matters more than the process. Of course, there is a lot of food for thought, and I'm sure that he will review it and analyze it, because top 32 is today, and he has no chance to train between this qualifying and the tandem runs. If the weather doesn't change, no warm-ups, no familiarization runs are foreseen by the regulation. But of course, the weather doesn't have to change for the track to change, because once RDS Europe took place here, we could see that a cloud comes, the wind comes, and the asphalt that's cooler, and everything changes. You cannot really recognize the track, but then Vasily Karachkov, the director of the race, doesn't give any warm-ups. Only if it rains heavily, we can get the familiarization runs. So this is the trickiness of ADM Raceway. From this point of view, this is really a very challenging kind of track that is not very easy to solve for different drivers. And the wind can be very unpredictable, and the weather is very unpredictable. But we've got some very competent specialists. Denis had a medium angle, and let me remind you one more time that everywhere except for touch and go 2 before the finish, the angle must be medium. And only in one place you are allowed to increase it to the maximum, and the big one is over 55 degrees. All the rest has to be with medium angle, and this is actually good. Having a medium angle is nice. This is what our task requires. Anatoly Sherbak in his second run in the qualifying round and the final second run in the first group, he pulled the handbrake twice. The initiation, Vladimir Safonov will definitely penalize it. He's got 30 points to make deductions, and now he's moving up very fastly but quite precisely. This is OZ3, and one wheel is outside the track in super, but he doesn't reach touch and go 2. He gets in touch and go 2, and then a correction at the exit, and he ignores touch and go 3. He finishes on the very narrow line. The touch and go 1, 2, and 3 make me think that he is really lacking speed. He has got very little speed at the finish of the track. 150 is not much for this track, and this is why he couldn't reach anything. Touch and go 1, 2, 3, all these clipping points were missed. But how nice and stable he was in the clipping zones 1, 2, and 3. This was really nice to see. But we remember that these are the most expensive elements of the judge's task. The OZs goes to 7 points, but the slower the car is sliding, the easier it is to get these OZs. And maybe this is why Anatoly Sherbak sacrificed his speed, but at the same time, his car is pretty heavy, and so he's got to work with it as well. This is one of the heaviest cars. The heavier car, there's only one heavier car, that is the car of Nikolai Gorkovenko, and that is carbon Kevlar car. And Anatoly's is very different, and I know that he is still trying to solve the problem of making carbon doors to lose like 30 kilograms, because this weight that he's got is hardly acceptable in our current situation. But if we take a look at S15 of Danila Skorobogatov, we will see that his car is 1,270 kilograms. That is also quite a lot, and I don't know where so much weight comes from. This was made by Ford Auto, I don't know, maybe. And this is 80, yes, finally someone did it, and we've got a new qualifying leader, and we are ready to start group number 2. Denis Sarakaput from Lukoil Racing Drift Team will start it. He has number 77. And he's the only driver who has a chaser in JZX 100 case. So this is a relic, a car that is about to extinct. Denis Sarakaput also some very interesting practice runs he did. He even had a fire on his tires, but our fire extinguishers eliminated it, and the car is still intact. And now you can see how he's passing through the first clipping zones. very nicely and sharply with some minimum corrections, but he loses 2 wheels outside. Say bye-bye to these wheels, but then he saved himself. He didn't spin around in the last sector. And yes, also without digging worms outside. Without that OZ3, I would even give him a round of applause, but I wouldn't. Just congratulate him on getting to top 32. You know how they do it in billiard. So when one ball is scored nicely, they just click their fingers instead of giving the applause. So we can do the same now, because it is not really worth a real applause. You can see that Denis Sarakaput handled all the challenges quite well. He took all the clips, and he did a 3-wheel drift at the initiation. He did use his left foot to press the brakes, but it didn't really affect the drift. But now, anyway, what we can see, this is a monstrous car. It's a monstrously large compared to the other cars of the championship. But even BMW E92 is not much shorter, but it's 1,312 kilograms. Gorkovenko still has the heaviest one with 1,346. But there are not so many cars that actually exceed this limit of 1,300, but Alexei Vakhtin is one of them, and he still shows some good results. He is gonna qualify in the last group together with the other leaders of the personal standings. He is now 4th in the rating. Denis Sarakaput has got 80 points. Another result of 80 points. That is quite good. So we can't wait to see any corrections in the second run. And now here comes Maxim Grossman, the flyer, the aviator, who took the racing track for a runway. He is from Irkutsk, Time Up team. And yes, he is the first of the 3 drivers of this team. Danilas Karabagatov complained for some bad health yesterday. I hope he feels better today. Maxim Grossman, when his flight was on social media all over the world yesterday, and he almost did it backward, but he's got to continue. He managed to save himself from an inevitable failure. He misses OZ3 clearly, and of course he's not gonna get any. Oh, Max, what are you doing? Oh, no. First of all, we will take a break for cleaning the track, because there's quite a lot to clean. He has brought a lot of debris to the asphalt, but I still recall yesterday's events. Let me tell the spectators that this flight of Maxim Grossman was caused by the very low pressure on the rear tires. It was 0.7 atmospheres, and this is why the left rear wheel simply debanked, and this is why the control was lost. It looks like Time Up team decided to select a reverse strategy. They now increase the pressure in the rear tires, and now the car begins to slip. It is simply sliding. It doesn't have that support, that grip. Doesn't have that control. The lower the pressure in the rear wheels, the more the control. But at the same time, there is some reasonable limit. Now there are some special discs that allow you to reduce the pressure to 0.6, 0.7. Here the wheel is scraping against the arch, and I could see it. I discussed it with Alexei, one of the technical directors of the team, and he said that yes, it really occurs, and they have to open the rear arch more and more. And here, yeah, oh, that is beautiful. That is beautiful indeed, but I'm afraid that the mechanics who spent half a day to fix the car yesterday are now having a heart attack watching this, especially when the left rear wheel meets that junction point of the ground and the asphalt, and this makes kind of a big shock on the car. And I remind you that yesterday's flight of Maxim Grossman ruined the entire suspension and also damaged the subframe, so he had to replace it. Yes, and this is a 0 because this is an uncontrollable finish. This is what we told you about. Yeah, so he saved himself once, but he failed to do it on the second time. The tractor went to work to clean the track around the finishing zone. So Maxim Grossman continues causing trouble to the mechanics and the track cleaners. And what have we got here? This is a prize for the winner of the prediction competition. Our official sponsor, iMall Company, manufacturer of premium motor oils, makes a competition for you. Until 1 p.m. you need to guess the winner of the qualifying. How do you do it? Go and check the social media of iMall Company, and here in the corner of iMall Company, right here at the Autodrome, come and ask where you submit your answers, and you can win this great baseball cap. And let me remind you, the general sponsor of Grand Prix Russian Drift Series is VTB Bank BJSC. And this is Anton Klimko from St. Petersburg, and he is F22 Eurofighter. This time this is not his BP fighter. And number 53, and this is angle that is on the edge of glory, and we will check it later in the drift dynamics. And there's a transition, he gets the touch and go, and he runs towards 3, and he needs to be a little bit wider there, but he leaves some space, and this is the last transition. And yes, this time it is strange to see a car that drives on the asphalt without getting outside. It's also nice to see the bumper in place. I'm happy that it didn't come off, even though it was trying to jump off throughout the run. Anton Klimko and his team have to sacrifice a lot of grip, because yesterday, as we mentioned it in our evening session, he has problems with the intake air temperature because he doesn't want to overload the engine. The more grip you've got, the more load falls on the engine. And in these conditions, Anton, of course, is having a hard time demonstrating his skill, but he does have a lot of skill, and especially this season, he has improved a lot. You can see him grow, and of course, he gets a lot of assistance from Evgeny Losev, who acted as his coach. But Anton feels much more confident now on board compared to how he looked last year. And he shared it with me at one of the stages. And most importantly, it is not only about driving well, it's also about giving high quality feedback to the team, to the mechanics, so that they know what to do with the car and whether they need to do anything with the car or they need to do something with the driver. And this gap has been scaring me. At first it looked like the hood was open, but it was motionless. That is the front bumper that wasn't properly fixed, and I think that they will do it the way it has to be. Let's watch another F22. This is not a Eurofighter. This is Nikolai Gorkovenko from Carville Racing. He had a very good, very nice beginning of the season, the first team victory in the stage. And we have seen Anton Klimko there, who just was on our teams, and he is now acting solo. We saw Kristaps Blush and Nikita Shakeup, and he is the regular of the team. He has been there all the time. And the team of Nikita Shakeup is the same as the car of Nikita Shakeup. You can make a documentary series. He has been everywhere already. So this is Nikolai Gorkovenko. He made jokes saying that the heaviest car has to be the most powerful engine, and he doesn't know why it is not so yet. But his power has gone up totally, you can tell it. His power is now 900 horsepower. And we've got a new qualifying leader, Anton Klimko. He's got 83 points, but we could see that there was some margin to improve. And I hope that it happens after all. And now this is Nikolai Gorkovenko. He's looking at us and we are looking at him. And we are ready to watch him. He starts at the green light and the carbon Kevlar E22 begins to travel. And he fails the initiation. It looked very dangerously. I think it could be a continue of our failure collection, but he didn't get the first zone. Lots of corrections in the second in transition, and he misses the inner touch and go. And what happens in the third? And 1, 2, 3 wheels outside. Oh, doesn't look good at all, but he continues moving to the finish, which is closer and closer and closer. But is it or is it not? I don't know. There was an opposite drift after he crossed the finishing line, and this is the situation that I don't know how to interpret and how to describe. Is it an uncontrolled finish or is it not? But we should also say that his entire run was ruined at the beginning. If the initiation doesn't really work out, if the initiation is against being done, then the entire run goes wrong. It just cannot, and it also demoralizes the driver a lot. But it's good that Nikolai Garkovenko finally got it to the finish, even though we don't know whether he does or does not get any points. But we remember him doing something very similar yesterday. He and Sergei Kabargin, they hit the cones a couple of times. Even though they're well-bred, polite and intelligent guys from St. Petersburg, they do some little vandalism once they get to Moscow. This is the St. Petersburg and Moscow thing. But I cannot say anything about it. I need to understand whether it is a 0 or not. This is up to the judges to decide, because something very similar was made by Maxim Grossman, but he was outside with 2 wheels. Nikolai Garkovenko remained within the track, but the finish was kind of eccentric. But if we try to imagine a chaser following such a leader, I think he would be very surprised at everything, and he would never like it. And look at that angle. Do you know the angle? The angle of the finish was 104 degrees. It was a backward plus 3 wheels outside. You can see how much the front wheel goes up from the asphalt. It is in the air. But well, the angle is right, because the system cannot lie to us. We are trying to be very true, but people can be mistaken and the system cannot. But this is not the finishing angle, it is the angle in touch and go 3. And then the angle was going down and down and down, and it reduced to 0. So the opposite drift that we saw with our own eyes really did take place there at the finish, when the system wasn't measuring anymore. It was 16 degrees to the opposite side, and as far as the average angle is concerned, it is supposed to be around 35 and 55 degrees. And he did step over this border. He had 75 in offset 3. That is too much. This is what the judges do not want to see. They asked the drivers not to do. But, well, you can see that sometimes it happens, and this is absolutely not encouraged. But Nikolai Garkovenko did everything the judges asked him not to. But nevertheless, this is mercy. Sometimes mercy lives in their hearts, and this is 42 points. This is how big the mercy of our judges can be. So this is a minimum productive attempt for the driver from St. Petersburg. I didn't even believe my eyes. I thought it was Nisar Kaput. But there are only 4 people in this group, because Stepan Nazarov and Ilya Popov had to be. But Stepan Nazarov has a technical failure. We will see Ilya Popov very soon. And now Denis Starokaput in his second run. This is a narrow entrance to the first zone, but then he corrected his line. And a nice transition. The second outside clip very well. And the transition is slightly late, and he misses the linear touch and go. But here, the second Adidas is exactly as ordered by the judges. 1 transition, 2nd transition, the last transition through the touch and go, and he also got the 3rd one. I think I was wrong when I was telling you about the angle of Nikolai Garkovenko. It was in 2nd touch and go when he had 104 degrees, but it's not that important, because he still got some result for the run. But I like the way Denis Starokaput is working with the gas. He's been pressing the gas throughout the run. Then he did the transition, press it again, and continued moving. This is a distinctive feature of these drivers of the tourer-like cars. on sedans, on Toyota sedans, they can get this angle and press the gas and continue sliding like this with a lot of smoke. Because their car allows them to do so. They've got this long chassis, and it is stable in these curves. And this is why it can do it. And later, in other places, like Resign with lots of turns, having such a long car is not that convenient. You can make your car more maneuverable, but it is definitely a deduction of 4 points for the inside touch and go for missing it, because there are 4 points for every touch and go. You can get 7 points for the line if you get need a touch and go on the second touch and go, and the last two, TG2 and TG3, they cost 3 points, which makes the total of 35 points for the line, 35 points for the angle, and 30 points for the style. Maxim Grossman, who zeroed his first run down, he was doing his best definitely to get that zero, and then there was an uncontrolled finish that the judges had to interpret as a zero according to the regulations. Now we've got some new knowledge. Opposite drift after the finish is not a zero, the judges say. But Nikolai Garkovenko made an experiment. Of course, he's got a lot of deductions, a lot of penalization. But here, this is a specificity of ADM Raceway, because there is a left turn after the finish. So you're supposed to make a transition if you drift. You don't have to drift, but by the inertia, with the inertia, the car continues sliding. So now Maxim Grossman is trying to save himself together with the Time Up team. His entire team is supporting the driver from Irkutsk. And now this is the result of Denis Starakapud. Oh, almost maximum for the angle, and this is 88. He almost goes to 90 plus club. These 4 points for the inside touch. And, well, he almost got to a good result. 92 points would be a by runner zone, perhaps. We don't have any double zeros yet, but this is because of Stepan Azarov, because of his mechanical failure. We are going to have 4 by runs this time. I hope we have no other double zeros and no more technical failures. And now Max Grossman, in the meanwhile, is in the second tow Z, and he makes quite a good transition before. Here, he misses a touch and go, the inside touch and go, and the third clipping zone, a little bit narrow, but let us not reprimand him for this, because at least he's finishing the run. This is still a productive run. This is not a double zero. Once again, I can see that ADM Raceway is one of the most complicated tracks in the calendar of Rds Gp and Rds Europe. And this is why so many people like it. Well, not many people like it, but why? Because the track is pretty narrow here. And the speed is quite high, and the higher the speed, the more precision it requires from the driver. In 1 second, the more actions you need to make, and the smallest mistake, the smallest inaccuracy can cause quite a lot of problems. Like, how could you miss the inner touch and go here? But, well, you miss it. And Maxim Grossman, unfortunately, misses it, and he just ignores the inside touch and go. I also checked the statistics for the last years, and the 90 plus club here is very, very small, usually. This is how difficult this track is. But if we count the entire track, the run-in and the course, it is the longest track in Rds Gp. It's almost 900 meters. And even though the average speed is not very high, it takes like 28 or 29 seconds for the drivers to get from start to finish. And the longer you're on the track, the more the probability that your nerves fail you and you make a mistake. And we don't see it at all. And this is the result, 26 and 31 and 26. And this is 83. For Maxim Grossman, congratulations. This is very good for a self-safe session. This is almost brilliant, which means that he's very psychologically stable. He managed to pull himself together. And this is Anton Klimko. He had 83 points for the first run, and now he can improve it. Maybe he can fight for something much better. And wow! The car opens its mouth and makes a grimace even before it gets to the end of the first clipping zone. One wheel outside, another wheel, another transition, missing touch and go one. There's no improvement, obviously. I hope he gets the body kit to the finish. Oh, you can see the bumper rubbing against the asphalt. It's so rough. It feels so painful to me. Okay, breathe out. Breathe out. Oh, this mimic of the car. Oh, says the car. Whoa. Anyway, yesterday, several times, I saw the bumper of Anton Klimko flying off. It came separate to the service park several times. So this is a systematic problem that the team has. I think he needs to sort it out, and now the judges will have to figure out what to do with the points of Anton Klimko. Because this is not a stable, this is not a precise run at all, and I'm sure that this will go to all the reports, to all the reviews, to all the highlights. I think he had two wheels outside the track there, and he almost touched the no-go zone before the inside touch and go. I don't know what that zone is there for, but I think it is there for the chaser not to get into the little bump, for the leader to leave some space for the chaser, I guess, so that between OZ 3 and touch and go 1 there was some... look, this is the trunk. Like an elephant, the car is. And they're weighing the car. Do they weigh it with the bumper or without? With the bumper, but separately. Yeah, this is an important thing, by the way, to weigh the car together with the bumper. This is the weighing procedure. This is an obligatory procedure. We don't always see it on air, but you know that if you are wearing the car with a 265 tires, the car has to weigh at least 225 kilograms. This is why the judges have to check it. No matter how heavy the car looks, there is always a probability that there was too much fuel at the technical scrutineering and then it went down, or the driver lost some weight, or I don't know. So it has to be checked. Alcohol, says on the special sign that decorates the car of Nikolai Gorkovenko. It doesn't mean that the driver is drunk. It means that this is the fuel of the car. The car uses the high-octane petrol together with alcohol. Okay, I think it took quite a while for the judges to make all the deductions, so it's 69, but it's not very important now. But if we have many drivers with the same result, well, this is usually the biggest zone, like from 80 to 90. The competition is the roughest there, and it is very important to distribute the drivers fairly, because your place in the protocol depends on which opponent you hit in the next stage. And this is Nikolai Gorkovenko. 1, 2 wheels, strip that bumper off. Now Nikolai Gorkovenko will have to wait before the weighing is done, before the bumper is brought. And now with some corrections, he gets the OZ 3, and before the exit from the OZ 3, he adds more speed. He gets a no-go zone. Oh God, so many things are happening at the same time, and 3 wheels outside. That is a kind of creative way to pass through this score section of the track. 3 wheels outside was the minimum. And yes, so this is quite a spectacular moment when the bumper falls off like a rocket that loses its first unit. And now it looked quite well until here. Then the angle went down. The car was pushed to the outside edge of the track, and mentally I gave a round of applause to Nikolai Gorkovenko that he kept his car under control, but then everything went very wrong. It was very hard for the car to get back to the asphalt. It's very rough on the suspension. Here he wasn't in the no-go zone. You can see it from this angle. And this is the moment when the car pushed off. And here you could see the car squatting on the rear angle. This is the clutch and gas work to push the car out from where it's not supposed to be. It slows the car down. It's very hard to get touch and go 1, 2, and 3 in the right order, because this is quite a high-speed section. You need to get the right speed by that time and waltz through all the zones. And if your line is kind of broken, then rock and rolling through this part of the track might be problematic. Lub-dubba-dubba, ba-lub-ba-dum-dum, as Elvis would say. Oh, almost there. Can he get it? Can he get it? Yes. Applause. This is Konstantin Larin. Flexible and graceful. Yeah, this drifting makes such things to people. Our rescue rangers have very long arms and also quite a good sense of humor. He knew how he looked from outside. Here comes Grigory Gusev and his right-handed E92. This is a Lukoil. Everything is right. The picture is not mirrored. And as far as the bumper is concerned, it will now go to the weighing zone. Did we see any score of Nikolai Garkovenko? Not yet, and the judges are still thinking. It takes some time for them to count everything. And now we can just enjoy the view of this Adler fighter, as Grigory calls it, because the car came from Japan. This is why it's right-handed. Anton Novikov said, but at last he's got lots of spare rods, spare links for such cars, because Japanese cars are very popular, very common, and these rods are lots of spares in all the markets. Lots of these cars are remade to the left-handed version, or lots of these cars are brought in for spare parts, because in the Russian Federation lots of the majority of BMWs are left-handed and right-handed BMWs are very uncommon. And I think that Grigory Gusev has got lots of those roads and links. They are cheap, there's abundance. And I asked Grigory if he liked the car, and he said, yes, it's great, it's amazing, and I love it, he said, which was quite well confirmed by his practice runs in the morning. And yesterday we also spoke about it at our Friday stream. You could feel that he felt confident. I just hope that he still keeps stable as well as he was yesterday. And you always want every run to look spectacular. You see how it's shining. No one even knocked on his door yesterday. I did see a little damage on the door of the car of Nikolai Garkovenko, but I don't remember anyone hitting him yesterday. Okay, this is 38. I thought that it is impossible to get anything less than 82, but this is 38. Okay, Grigory Gusev, representing Nakhotka, Lukoil Racing Drift Team champion of RDS Asia or RDS East. One of these, but most importantly, he is a RDS Gp driver, and the top 4 is his best achievement. This is a very evil initiation within the track. Wow, I really love it. I think that Vladimir Safonov says, yes, that's the style. If he gets to the finish, of course, also 3 is taken. And he works through that also very nice and precise touch and go 2, and through touch and go 3 he finishes with some margin at the end. I think that this is the opening of a 90+ club. At least this is what I hope for. But I think I'm having a very surprised look on my face, because, well, we haven't seen anything like that today. I've never seen Grigory Gusev confident like that. I'm not surprised that he can make such runs. I'm surprised at how confident he looks. This is a new platform for him. He has never driven BMWs. He always had Mark IIs and Chasers. And now suddenly he's got a BMW. he didn't take it to St. Petersburg because he took some time to test it and to check it, to set it up, and now everything looks aligned. Of course, the engine was replaced on Thursday, and so it was done for a reason. It is good that they took an engine from Grigory Gusev's Chaser and put in this BMW, because this run was really worth it. And this does really look very beautifully. And most importantly, it looks very emotional. And it is not only about being the first official run on this platform, but this is the first run for this event. And this is not a safe. This is not a safe run just to get a guaranteed result that we keep repeating over and over again. But now it was very great, very good. And Drift Dynamics system has changed so much. It has been surprised so much that it didn't measure the initiation speed. And I am really desperate because I would love to see it. I would really be interested to see how much he accelerated, but I cannot tell you anything, my friends. I can only check the graphs of. What is that? BMW breaks everything. Everything is out of chat. Everything leaves the chat. Everyone is stunned. A BMW is such a car that erases all the figures from everywhere. It's like the device from Men in Black. Oh, 26.5 out of 30, and this is 89.5. Are you kidding me? Was it? Why couldn't you give him 27? Why 26.5? What was that? This is emotional disconcord. 1.5 points better than Denis Rakaput. Well, quite a good qualifying for Lukoil Racing. And here comes Nikita Shakeup. And Nikita Shakeup, a veteran of our drift stage, representing Carville Racing team. He fails the first clipping zone, almost fails the second. Now transitioning, a touch and go, yeah. What's that smoke coming from the front wheel? I've got some questions about it. Also, 3 is done, the last transition, and touch and go 2, and through touch and go 3, he gets to the finish. Well, this is a productive run, but lots of questions. The smoke from the front wheel is a specificity of the body kit of Nikita Shakeup. Sometimes the smoke can be distributed like this. It gets turbulent underneath the car, and also he uses a little bit of his left foot as well. Yeah, so this is the smoke from the rear wheels. This is how it can flow. So there's so much smoke in the rear wheels that it can go out from the front. Yes, aerodynamics makes wonders. I really like this body kit on the Supra. I like the wing. It looks some old school, but this is a unique body kit. It's uniquely designed, that was made for Nikita Shakeup. Personally, he is a pioneer of this body kit, and he's got plans to improve its design. Oh yeah, so everything is, all the intrigue has been killed. I remember how much they wanted to make the first Supra like this, and the Japanese made lots of them, and they lost the news, they lost all the information, but the beauty is still there. The aesthetics of the process is still there, and we're happy to see it like this. But something strange happened in the first zone. The initiation speed was, I don't know how much, we'll check it out, 162 points. So Nikita Shakeup did step over the 160 borderline. Nothing is clear about Gusev, but there was so much aggression. Sometimes this aggression and this great and clear initiation does play some jokes with our conscience. And then you check the drift dynamics and you see that it's not that fast. And sometimes fast runs do not look that spectacular. But now no operations have been made, and there's a lot for the judges to think about. And I think, and I know that they're finishing the scoring process. But what I want to say is I'm very glad to see smiling people on the stage, on the stands. I'm also very happy to see good weather in the Moscow region, because everything that was happening during the past week before the stage, it was absolutely unacceptable. And we were craving for a hot summer, and now it's here. But Maxim Akhtyamov can tell us where it is. We were promised an abnormal hot summer, but it came to the Urals anyway, because our country is quite big, so globally the Urals are not that far from Moscow. Roman Tivadar from Takaima forward order is warming up his tires, and these are the results. With all that art that Nikita Shikov made in the first 2 sectors, 80 points is almost a victory. It's a very, very big score. So he's approximately 6th this far. And here comes Roman Tivadar. Roman Tivadar won his first qualifying in his career, and it was 2021 or yes, it was 2022. Okay, it was his first qualifying victory, and this is the initiation. He pushed off some bump on the road, and this is a second outside clip, and one wheel slips outside through the inner touch and go. He runs towards a 3, and he goes to the finish on the outside edge of the track, sliding along it, and the last transition in a very big angle here, according to the task, and he reaches touch and go 3. Everything is done correctly. First of all, this was really the first victory of Roman Tivadar in the previous year. But there's a lot of rubber on the track. I know that the teams are doing their best to clean these little rubber crumbs from the road, and from underneath the cars. But well, yeah, it still builds up, and when it builds up, it can catch on fire. So now you can see that the car is cleaning itself. But it's also the left side of the bumper that caught on something on the car, I don't know, and the car looks kind of shaky for this reason. And there is the edge of the track near Furidashi, and it depends on what phase the car gets there. And once the jump occurs, the car might start doing such movements, and now he goes very, very straight on the white line. But from this angle you can see that in also 2, one of the wheels slipped. Thankfully there were no serious consequences for the further rhythm of the car, but well, let's see what the judges say. There is no maximum for the line, and not only because of the wheel. 1 wheel is 1 point of penalty, and all 4 is 0 for the attempt. But here I think that the speed was very much exchanged for the angle, and now the line was narrower than it was supposed to be. But there is a trick. In touch and go 2, the angle must be big, so you must slide, open, and then go very straight on a big curve with an average angle and get to the finish. So it is very technically hard, but Roman's angle was 54, which is very medium. It's exactly what the judges asked. And finally, this is 92 points. We've got a new qualifying leader. I think we could even add 2 points if he didn't violate the limits of the track. But still, this is quite a good announcement. It's a good statement. It could be a by run, and now we move to time up. Leonid Schneider, the finalist of the last year's IDM Raceway stage, he makes a lot of corrections with a handbrake in almost at 1, and this is how he's getting the inside touch and go. I think that there was some violation of the track board as near as at 3, a slightly narrow line in the second clipping zone, the last transition touch and go 2, and he manages to hold himself within the track, even though he was in the danger zone. He had to work the clutch and the gas a lot to keep the car on the track, to keep it in place. There were some corrections, but we should also remark that last season Leonid Schneider had a Silvia, and he drove a silver here, and he was 15th with 83 points for the qualifying. But this is just for some interesting information. But most importantly, that was his first podium in Leonid Schneider's rookie season. It was his first full season in forward auto without the Takayama, and he went against Damir Diatulin. And I think that it was about his anxiety and nervousness. But at the end, it was quite well for him. For Leonid Schneider, it was a very important position because Damir Diatulin, in a certain way, he was his mentor and his tutor. And he also used to be his spotter in Rds Europe and other championships. And it's also worth noticing that back then, Leonid really decided to surprise everyone. And he did it. 182 kilometers per hour and a straight flight into the bush. And he almost got the unique achievement. When you initiate and run into the wall, he stopped several meters away from the wall. It was fast. I think that Damir was also very much surprised. This is Denis Sarakaput calling someone, asking what to do. Check his glasses out. You can buy such glasses in RDS shop. Is he calling his dad or mom? I don't know. Okay. Everyone is there. Hello everyone. I hope you're doing fine. It's not very hot today, but the sun is shining, so please use sunscreens, wear hats and caps. Please take care of yourself. Vladislav Popov. Oh, it looks so beautiful. I love these beautiful pictures when you can see how the light plays and this aesthetics. 30-30-25. And this makes 85. Thank you, dear judges. And Leonid Schneider is the fourth this far, but this is just the first attempt, and there were some obvious mistakes that can be eliminated to improve the situation. 1,079 horsepower. These numbers, yes, Felku Darkside does love numbers. This is one of the two Popov brothers. The taller one begins his first run. We will see Ilya Popov at the end of the qualifying round because he went to the health group, and the health group only consists of one participant. This is transition to OZ1, one wheel outside, and here he's very nicely sliding close to the no-go zone. And here he works through OZ3, a little bit too narrow, but let's consider to be the margin for the second run. And then he almost scratches his disc against the asphalt. I just wonder how many hours the brothers spent in the drifting simulator, because this is their first ADM Raceway stage, and it looked incredibly good for the first run. I think it was even better than his practices, even though during the practice sessions Vlad looked very well. This is 350Z, and it looks amazing. It looks very well. Of course, there are some moments to work on. There are some moments the judges may have some questions too. And all the complaints, all the questions of the judges will be formulated in numbers. 156 kilometers per hour, not a record-breaking speed, but this is quite good. This is a nice pace, and it should also be encouraged. Of course, this speed doesn't directly influence anything. We mention it just to evaluate the condition of the track in an indirect way, and also to understand the driver's attitude to the track, because it determines how intensively you run in. And also, the judge's task mentions that you cannot let the gas go before the initiation. You're supposed to run into the Furidashi moment with the gas pushed to the floor, especially when you've got a lot of horsepower. You need to be able to distribute it in the right way to have this ascending speed curve before the initiation. But Vladislav Popov has a lot of horsepower. I think he could even lend a little bit to someone. And Damir Diatulin also has no problems with the horsepower. He's got more than 800, 900 plus Newton meters of torque. The Supra of Damir and the Supra of Losev are twins in a way, with the only difference that traditionally Damir Idiatulin uses the 3-liter engine and he uses an anti-lag. He likes working with the clutch, and yeah, so he is keeping it tough. And we get back to Vladislav Popov, and his result is 84 points, and he is 5th this far, quite good for the first run. So congratulations to Vladislav. He's the rookie of our championship this year. And here comes Damir Idiatulin, the first official run on this Supra A80 Samurai. And why it's nicknamed like that? Because it is the car of Hibino, and then Shanahan got to the title on this car, and then it was rebuilt, and now Damir Idiatulin is doing his first battle run. The initiation looked a little bit strange from this angle, but the first zone is amazing, very clear. With little margin, he goes through OZ, and then the inside touch and go. And OZ3 is hidden in the smokes, and I think he will be penalized for the deep angle, but at least he didn't lose the speed. But the third touch and go is a big question. I don't know whether there was one rear wheel outside or not, but we will see it on replay. A small flip, and yes, he had to work with the handbrake a little bit, correcting it. But that handbrake wasn't excessive, first of all, and secondly, after the car was stabilized with the handbrake and pushed to the right vector, he opened the gas. And I think that he is totally enjoying the 2JZ GT engine. And I think, yes, he did get the touch and go 3. Let's see it once again on replay. If I have to suppose, I don't remember anyone initiating early like him and with such a beautiful flip like Damir Idiatulin did. I think this is Damir's trademark thing, one of the distinctive features of his style. But he had a 17 degrees sway, almost a double furidashi. Then there was some correction of 37 degrees, and then he added more to 49, which, oh wow. To say that the angle is medium, not small or big. How can I continue working now? Yeah, some little correction was recorded by Drift Dynamics, but generally we can say that the angle in OZ 3 was very stable, very nice. But in touch and go 1, yes, he did cross the border of the medium angle. But to be fair, I don't see any serious speed loss after that. He lost some speed exactly where he was allowed to do so, so therefore no penalization should be expected. I think that Damir Idiatulin is quite glad to hear that, and it takes the judges quite a while to think about what they just saw. And we are now enjoying the view of BMW 92 of Grigory Gusev. Also very, very mesmerizing look. You can see the face expression of Grigory Gusev. I love on boards with Grigory Gusev when he is in the car. You can see him open his eyes widely. This is one of the trademarks of Grigory Gusev, one of the highlights of our broadcasts. Every time Grigory Gusev is in the broadcast, you can compile these moments into a mini documentary called The Emotions of Grigory Gusev. Only Charles opening his eyes looks more impressive. It does happen sometimes. He can sometimes be surprised by his opponents, and the judges want to see more replays. So it means that Grigory Gusev will have to wait a little longer. 89.5 points was his result for the previous run. Oh wow! We've got the Drift Dynamics data, and this peak you can see in OZ 2 now is not visible in my interface of the system. The line is always wavy. It cannot be 100% smooth because the system is very precise, but these fluctuations can be very small, like they are here. And we continue studying the appearance of this vehicle. Yes, I guess we've got the decision of the judges. Grigory Gusev didn't go back to the burnout area. 32 for the line to 3.5 for the angle, and this is 93.5. We've got the new qualifying leader, and this is Damir Diaturin. So, but this is just the first run of the third group, and now we are about to proceed to the second. This is Grigory Gusev beginning this process for his group. He is ranked third this far. He was half a step away from 90+ club, and I hope that this time he can get higher. This is the initiation, nice and hard. He steps on the right pedal and makes a nice smoky line, throws at 1. Then he makes a transition, and this is a nice and stable angle on the second OZ with the inner touch and go. He flies to OZ 3, the last clipping zone, and he enters it a little narrowly this time. But wow, and unfortunately he straightens up before touch and go too, and this happened so abruptly. This might be a technical problem. It really does look like this, because it happened in an instant. You could see him losing power on the rear axle. If he could continue, I'm sure he would. Let's watch it once again. Yes, so it looked like the car just went off. Okay, so let's cross our fingers on all the extremities we've got, because there's very little time left to the tandem runs. We are supposed to start at 1:30 p.m. if everything goes smoothly according to the timing. The drivers are already digging the ground, trying to do everything they can to break the timing. The tractors have to waste our time, and Denis is also worried for his teammate. We haven't seen Andreas Stapov of Local Racing Drift Team. He will appear in the next group. And okay, this is a 0, of course. I don't know why it took so long for the judges to decide, but well, the 0 also has to be admitted, recognized and visualized. Nikita Shakeup is looking at us in a very concentrated way. We are looking at him as well. Nikita had a very nice beginning, a very impressive run. 80 points is a good result, but this is the most experienced driver of Rds Gp, so of course we expect more from him than from anyone else. He decided to add more of the line, and he added more speed and more aggression. He made a nice and careful transition, and this smoke is trying to deceive me, but I'm an experienced one. And a transition, you're supposed to make the transition faster in touch and go too, but the line looks quite okay. He had one wheel outside and nose at 1, but this is a small penalization, nothing serious. Yes, the second run looks much clearer. The second zone was taken better. Even though at least one wheel was outside this time, the general performance looks much better. It's better to go outside the track than to ignore the OZ. This far, this is the fastest initiation of 166 kilometers per hour. Almost the yesterday's performance, and he also had some reserve. One wheel slipped off, but it was much later. But he failed to direct the car in the right direction, and the third zone, this part of the mark was ignored, and there are serious corrections in each zone. In the first, his angle fell from 61 to 47 degrees. In the second zone, from 49 to 35 degrees. In the third, it fell from 65, so the angle was big first, and then he reduced it to 40, and then he added more, then he reduced it back to 47. So the judges will not like it, especially Anton Novikov, and he is the angle judge, and the corrections are his jurisdiction. I watched the replays, and in the moment when the car was outside the track, the camera is located in a very good spot. From there you can see that the wheel was still inside. And here is our colleague Alicia working. Yes, she is interviewing the spectators, and tomorrow you will see the interviews in the break between top 16 and top 8. Leonid Schneider, in the meanwhile, is at the starting line, just like all of us. Nothing is happening. Nikita Shakeup had 80 points for the first point, which perhaps explains the risky strategy and the intensive run in to 166 kilometers per hour, but you could see the result of it. This was more of a correction. Okay, 30 out of 35 is not that bad, and he gets 84. 84, so no buy run for Nikita with such a performance, but this is gonna be a top 32 anyway, and we love it. Good tandem runs are very good, and we could see it in St. Petersburg and before that it is not easy to get to the buy runs, and it's not easy to pass top 32. Leonid Schneider representing Krasnoyarsk time-up team, and this is Toyota A90, and this is the initiation. The car is pushed inside, but then Leonid directs it where it's supposed to go. And this is a nice transition here. Almost does it before the touch and go. And the third outside clip, not very bad, but too narrow. But what happens again? This is an epidemic among red and white cars that switch off in the last section of the track. So this is a zero. It's good that his first run was resolutive, at least. What could it be? What could it be? I don't know how to explain that. But, okay, so his first attempt was resolutive, so that's okay. So what is happening? A second participant is falling to an epidemic. And the leader of the qualifying, the previous leader of the qualifying, because he was pushed down by the Mirdiaturin. This is Roman Tivadar, the one who opened the doors of a 90-plus club. This is Roman Tivadar from Takayama Forward Auto, Nissan Silvia S15. And this is a time for revenge. Maybe he can get the leadership back, who knows? Roman Tivadar is working well in the first two sectors. He makes a transition, collects the inside touch and go, and on the right line he enters the third outside clip, but narrows the line a little bit at the exit. Two transitions, one after another, looking well, just like the line to the finish. He even went around that edge of the track not to rub his left rear tire against it. So this is a very dynamic run. It looked very dynamic, very well. 164 kilometers per hour. And if we synchronize two runs, the second run looks a little bit faster. The average speed grew from 88 to 90 kilometers per hour. 2 kilometers per hour in this small distance is quite a big change. Roman Tivadar spread quite a lot of rubber particles at the initiation, but he still made a very nice furidashi. Was it a bumper or was it a wheel that was outside? If it's a bumper, then it's okay. If it's a wheel, then it's not. But it was rhythmical, it was dynamic, no speed loss. And once again, many drivers demonstrated a stable speed, but it can also play bad jokes on them at the end. But Roman Tivadar is handling this track very well. It is a challenging track, but Roman seems to be very easy on it. We see this transition once again. Yes, he hit it. Oh, yes, but very, very hardly. Oh, God. Is this for the autograph session? And we're waiting for the results of Roman Tivadar. And perhaps the leader of the qualifying may change again. I am not saying anything. I'm just trying to predict. Or the Mirdiaturin may record another victory in his track record. And by the way, the Mirdiaturin hasn't won any of the ADM Raceway stages. But, well, anything can happen, you never know. But Damir Yaturin has been doing very well before ADM Raceway. Even in Krasnoyarsk, he did very well. But the final wasn't very good, where Damir came in a very dramatic way. The judges request a replay because there are some concerns. But these are the questions about the line. The inside HGO has been figured out, but there is another problem, another little detail, just like it happens. When it's all very bad, or when it's all very good, there are always little questions that the judges need to answer. The thing is that the line was kind of a little narrow in OZ3, at the exit from OZ3, and this is what Maxim Akhtyamov wanted to figure out, to understand how many points to give for that. Such things happen when it's very close to the maximum, and you need to understand whether it's the maximum or a deduction. Yes, he did make a deduction, 34 out of 35, and this is 87. Anton Novikov was very rough on Roman Tivadar. Yeah. No improvement. Damir Yaturin remains the leader of the qualifying. And we proceed to Vladislav Popov, his neighbor in the starting protocol. Damir has number 9, Vladislav Popov has 11. And this is why they are close together. Vladislav Popov, Felku Dark, side 350Z. And it looks slightly nostalgic. And we are watching how he's sliding through the OZ2. This is the angling that the judges do not want to see. Too much angle out there, which spoiled the entire line. The wrong line in the inner side touch. Too much in OZ3, and only here Vladislav Popov managed to get back on track. It looked like something changed. Maybe the pressure. Perhaps the asphalt is now hotter, because it looks like the car has some difficulties. It is hard for the car to rotate the wheels. Of course, it has over 1,000 horsepower. So how much more does he need? But I mean that this is the setup peculiarities, because the power of a turbocharged engine is a very unstable value. You can press a button and get 100 more horsepower or 100 less horsepower. And Vladislav perhaps didn't expect to find so much grip on the track. And this is what I conclude from his OZ. Number 3. He didn't really pass it properly. It was ignored, and he also missed the inside touch and go. And this is why everything came apart. It happened in the second zone. The angle was 56 or 58 degrees. And then Vladislav added it up to 67, which you could see. And this is the description of this is the situation that was described by judges as a mistake. There are 7 mistakes described by judges in the task protocol. There was a serious correction note at 3, but no one really paid attention to it because it was so bad. So we come to the conclusion that Vladislav simply slowed himself down too much with the excessive angle, and the inertia wasn't enough to get to the wide line. It's hard to accelerate in OZ3 because you cannot increase the speed in such a situation. The cameramen keep working. Thank you, guys. It is obvious that our cameramen are all males. Absolutely obvious. And another thing that is obvious, that we see the score of Vladislav Popov, which is 79.5 degrees. No improvement again, but why? Because the first run was very good, and there was an attempt to get something more, but it didn't happen. No improvement once again. And what can this guy tell us? Can he establish himself on the first line? I hope he can. this is only third group. Who could ever imagine that Damir Diatulin will come in the third group? But there is something to aspire to for him. And this is a great line through OZ1. And too narrowly he exits OZ2, but it's better than angling down there. And this is OZ3, very nice and beautiful. He touches the white line with one wheel, but he doesn't step over. He throws the car in touch and go one, and then just as gracefully he gets to touch and go two. But there are some questions concerning the line somewhere in the second and the third outside zones. We will see what Maxim Akhtemov says. What we can say is that Damir Diatulin is one of the most stable drivers angle-wise. It has been proved multiply by Drift Dynamics system. There are some little fluctuations, but they're not very significant. Even visually, the car looks very stable. It gives you the feel of something monolith, something very even. It doesn't swing to the left or to the right, doesn't rock. And this reputation of a stable angle driver was achieved without wise fob suspension. Damir Diatulin doesn't like the wise fob. He helped other drivers setting up the cars, but he decided not to use the... But now he likes a Supra with wise fob. He even said that in the last season, while before the season he was training on the Supra, and Damir and Evgeny Losyev drove it, and both of them fell in love in this platform. They almost fought for this car, for the Supra, but the Supra chose the driver herself. She just broke down and no one drove it at the end. So the entire season it spent in the workshop, and then Evgeny Losyev took this car and got to the podium. It could be hard for him to fit in that car. And now the second one with a compact cage was vacant for Damir. The story is not simple. The car Evgeny Losyev is driving now was initially built by Damir Diatulin. And oh, we've got a kiss cam! Yeah, why not? Evgeny Losyev came to Syntec Fresh Marketplace station. He got on the Supra that Damir prepared for himself and said, "Oh, I love it so much." And Damir said, "Okay, take it, and I will drive the one you can hardly fit in," because Evgeny Losyev didn't feel comfortable on board. It's too small for him. The judges are still thinking. They ask for more and more replays. It looks like these were not just simply narrow exit, but Damir had two wheels in a no-go zone. It is not always easy to see, also from the judges' tower. You can see almost everything from the tower, but to be more confident, the judges need to see some replays. Moreover, one of the achievements of this autodrome is that you can see almost everything from the spectator's stance. You can see the entire circuit racing track, and as for the drifting track, it's even easier to see. This is the angle the judges wanted to see. I know what they're talking about. The one in between OZ2 and touch and go, the inside touch and go. Yes, here he narrows the line, and looks like it's more yes than no. He was a little bit in no-go zone, which is -2 points for the line. Maxim Akhtemov asked for this replay. He wanted to see what happened there. Here he's also a little bit early. Okay, so the decision is ready. The fourth group starts. It's run, and 29 for the style. Yes, this is a 96. 96 points. There is an improvement. Damir Diatulin solidifies his position as a leader of the qualifying. So repeating this performance would be quite hard, because 93.5 is also quite impressive. Damir was my favorite after the practice session, and here's another one, another of my favorites, Evgeny Losyev. And his Supra A80, nicknamed Berkut. Berkut, which is a bird of prey, versus Samurai. The second outside clip also looks very well, even though it was like Damir Styles line in this area. And this is very awesome also 3, but I still have some questions to the last Adidas. And he stabilizes the car with a handbrake. He almost falls in the sand trap, but he doesn't. He almost falls, but he doesn't. Let's see how different the initiations are. The initiation of Yevgeny and the initiation of Damir. Yevgeny looks smoother with less angle before the initiation. It looks like the car is controlled by the handbrake slightly less. I don't know whether he gets the touch and go or not. We will see it in the replay, but here, right before touch and go, right before that line, after which you are supposed to press the gas, he does press it exactly as the judges requested. I just combined two graphs in drift dynamics, and the attempts of Damir and Yevgeny Losev are very, very similar. The rhythm is the same, and those who also watched the Friday training, they could see that several runs of these two Supras were absolutely amazing to watch. And I hope that they only meet somewhere in the final, but I also hope that we see Damir and Yevgeny Losev together, because they can show an amazing tandem. And this is like capoeira of cars. It's like a fight, but it's a dance. It is a piece of art that the two drivers create together, and this is something you can say about Damir and Yevgeny. But angle-wise, Yevgeny didn't look as perfect as Damir Diatulin. He made at least 2 serious corrections in the first 2 clipping zones, and Anton Novikov also pays attention to this. There is Timofey Dobrovolsky, Andreas Tapov, Arkady Tseregradzev, and who else? Danila Skarabagatov. Yeah. So this is the full list of the 4th group. Ilya Fedorov is not there. He's supposed to be there. Ah, yeah, there he is. Yes, there he is. His 4-time winner of Rds East. He decided to stand a little bit separately. Yeah, hello, everyone. And finally, the score is ready. And why I'm so confident about it, because I can see that Timofey Dobrovolsky is invited. 34, 33.5, and 30. This is maximum for the style. Wow, 97.5. Wow, from the first attempt, 97.5. I will need some explanation for this. And Yevgeny Losev has never won a qualifying on this track, but Yevgeny Losev has a very awesome achievement. He is a record breaker in the qualifying score. He has got more than anyone else in Rds Gp. And now Timofey Dobrovolsky from Takayama Forward Auto, and also 2, where he narrows the exit after quite a bad line and nose at 3, and big correction before was at 3, so he misses it completely. And this is 1 and 2. Whoa, there's too much angle, but he cannot get back to the track, and this is a 0 for the first run. Unfortunately, there is no doubt. Okay, he will have to save himself. But we should remark that the first outside zone wasn't very good either. It looked like he didn't have enough speed at the very beginning. And this is why the line was so narrow. 169 kilometers per hour. So no, it wasn't. Timofey Dobrovolsky was the fastest in the practice, 172. And for Losev, 164 was enough. And Damir had only 154 in his best attempt. This is why the speed is not everything. It is important, but it's not always worth it. And here comes Andreas Tapov, the author of one of the most spectacular flyaways of yesterday. But this is not everything that he has achieved. He has been to top 4 here last year, but back then the engine failed him one time after another, and the choreography of Andreas Tapov was also kind of weird. but I think it was in 21. But this is already history, and let us not go deep into that. And now, together with Andrei, we go through OZ3, and this is a very narrow exit. He doesn't get to inside touch and go, and then the line and touch and go 2 was too wide. So yes, it just didn't work out. The speed was 163. But generally, the entire run went wrong, even though at the beginning it was great. The second zone also looked well, but then it looked like he let the gas go before the inside touch and go, even though the judges asked to make an early transition and press the gas early in inside touch and go to ensure the maximum speed and to take that speed to the clipping zones, touch and go 2, 3, and 4, because if you don't have enough, then you fail it, and this is exactly what Andrea Stavov did, unfortunately, because we always support all the drivers and we always want to see beautiful drifting. And there is also some correction, and you could see that Andrea Stavov left the zone too early. For some reason, he didn't stretch it further. He could make the transition later, and then probably the touch and go 1 would be also much better. But he was in danger of getting in the no-go zone. So too many things happened on the way. But when the driver understands that he pushes away from the outside clip, so then he might not risk it, because he knows that there is a no-go zone, he knows that there is a gravel outside. But, well, there are lots of decisions that the driver has to make in the process. A lot of intuition is required to take any attempt to the finish. And the first run is the most important story, because this is what has to be productive. And here we see Fire Lady Z. Preparing for this stage, we could see that in drifting, there are so many variables that have to be kept in mind that it can drive you crazy. Even if you try analyzing it, then you can spend a lifetime. You can spend a lifetime. Arkady Tseregradzev, in the meanwhile, is arrived to the start. Arkady Tseregradzev has been quite well here. In 2020, he had 93 points and he won the qualifying. In 2019, on board a Skyline, he was second in the qualifying, and then he was unlucky. In 2021, he was 19th. In 2022, he was 8th. Being 8th is not that bad, I would say. But last season, his result was also very important. He was 4th. But then this 4-time 4th at the end of the season brought him to the championship last year. So yes, maybe he didn't always get the podium, but he took his toll and it took him to the championship even before the final of the last stage. So now he's the defending champion of Rds Gp. Of course, the season can be very unpredictable, and this year it doesn't look like we're gonna have a double championship. Okay, the initiation, breathe out, let the handbrake go, and Arkady does it. A lot of smoke there, and 2 first zones are taken very well. A lot of smoke there. Corrections, and not the best entrance to OZ3, OZ1, OZ2. And now he's got to take it to the finish, and yes, he does, and it happens very well. But I would pay attention to one important thing out there. You will see it on replay very clearly. The first outside clip, you can see that it was dark first, and now there's sun. There is a cloud over the first curve, and the specificity of the asphalt is very distinctive. It is very windy, and once the sun is out, in a couple of minutes, the temperature of the asphalt goes down, and this situation It is locally lower, and perhaps this is why Arkady had to use more handbrake at the initiation to keep the car stable. But the alternative of that was very bad, so he had to do everything he could. 157 kilometers per hour in the final phase. This is the speed registered by Dreek Dynamics. We don't see anything record-breaking here. But at the same time, the line through the OZ1 says that these indicators are not very compulsory. No one really knows, no one really needs it. You can see how the front bumper bends under this air flow. It looks very solid, but it is actually flexible because the bumpers are very easy to break. So they are made flexible so that they bend instead of breaking. Danilas Karabagatov is now waiting at the start. And I hope that he feels better than yesterday. He was very sick. And I hope that the runs today will be much better. And Danilas Karabagatov started a kind of a good period in this relationship with Silvia S15. But since their romance are about to finish, because he's going to drive a Supra in Krasnoyarsk, which is a platform which is more understandable to him, and this S15 may become a spare car for time up, he's going to drive a Toyota, but keeping the Nissan in mind. But Danilas Karabagatov has some experience of driving on ADM Raceway, and he drove a flanker F here in 2021. He was 31st in the qualifying, but you can see how diverse an experience of one driver can be. A flanker, a Supra, and a Silvia. And this is very close, very nice, 94 for the first run, but it was good. It was good. The initiation was not expected to be like this, but everything can be rationally explained. Once again, Arkady Tserigradzev, who spoke about his St. Petersburg stage, he said, I did everything the way I had to, but the car just went in the wrong direction. Let's see whether Danilas Karabagatov can do the same. And he goes very narrowly, very inward, misses OZ1, makes the transition OZ2, and then he was not really there. He slides by the inside touch and go, then he adds more angle at the entrance to OZ3, presses the gas, and then he pushes away from the edge and gets inboard. I can see that he definitely missed the right pressure setups, and the score will not be very high. He waved his hands as he initiated. Let's go, he said. But he didn't only wave his hand to us, but also to the first clipping zone. The car didn't go there. Absolutely. We thought that Damir Idiatulin did the same at first, but no. And near the finish, everything looked much better. But I can see that this is not what he hoped for. Danilas Karabagatov represents the city of Tomsk time-up team. But let's get back to simple truth. A simple truth. At least one run has to be taken to the finish, and the rest doesn't matter anymore. Okay, so he loses one seal on the way. It happens, doesn't matter much. This is mechanical load. Even though we usually say that there is no lateral overload like it happens in the circuit racing, here it's different, but well, things still happen. And this is the moment of the start on replay. Yay, hey, hey. I love that moment. He saw the camera there, that's why he did it. But why did he did this thing? I have no idea. So I think that's the pressure thing. No, not the blood pressure, but the tire pressure. In St. Petersburg, I rode in Roman Tivadar's car as a passenger, and the initiation is more or less similar to this one. And we had a similar experience. We were dragged inward, and Roman said it's because the impulse the frontward impulse at the initiation was not enough. So that impulse does change a lot. And this is 77, by the way. Nevertheless, it's not that bad. Quite a good result. Just like Andrei Astapov, yeah, the same. And this is Ilya Fedorov, who says that he's from Vladivostok, but we know that he's from Khabarovsk. That is Fedorov Drift School. It's located here at ADM Raceway. On Thursday, when we had some test runs, so the parade of Ilya Fedorov's exes, all his ex cars were driven by his trainees. We didn't show it on the news, but we didn't because we take care of your aesthetic feelings. But Ilya doesn't take care of his bumper. He throws it off, he strips it off on the way, and now Ilya is leaving Oza 3 a little bit earlier than he had to. He works through the 2 touch-and-go zones, and this is it. I remind you that Ilya Fedorov works in two ways, in Rds Europe and in Rds Gp, where he drives a different car, a different suspension, different handbrake. Everything is different, and he has to get used to it as he changes from one car to another. But as for bumper, this is what we said. It has to be light and it has to be flexible in case it falls off like this, so that it doesn't break, only bends. And the wise fob for your tomorrow lection, it's very good. You can see it from all possible angles. Yeah, so I've got some suspension here, says Ilya, and then on the other side, he shows you more. This is a little car striptease. I've got another piece of suspension, he says, and it's blue colored. Everything was shown there. A lot of time has passed since then. Almost 24 hours have passed. But as far as the run is concerned, it's been precise and nice, very nice academic run, Fedorov style. Of course, making such special effects is not very good, and the Siva Silvia doesn't let him do more. 700 horsepower is not too much, but 700 horsepower plus Siva Silvia plus Wise Fob make a good combination. That 700 horsepower is not enough for Wise Fob. Wise Fob requires more. 707 is the lowest power in Rds Gp. The same figure was recorded in the entry of Vladislav Shubadyorov, but Vladislav Shubadyorov couldn't take part in this stage because he is sick, so we wish him good health and come back soon, recover well. And as far as the power is concerned, then Vladislav Shubadyorov has 549 and Ilya Fedorov has 550, only 1 horsepower more. Not impressive. And here Nikolai Garkovenko loses to Ilya Fedorov, at least according to the data that I've got here in my protocol. Even though there was a sort of a power fight, a fight for power, and all the drivers are trying to achieve more. But it's not really 700, it's 750 horsepower there. And then Ilya is far away. And even though Nikolai has a heavy car, 150 horsepower is not nothing. It is still something. The score is coming, and in the meanwhile, I wanted to continue the figures thing. If we take all the participants of Rds Gp, the average amount is 880 horsepower, and this is 94 points. Okay, Arkady Tsarigradzev, it's time for you to get tense and to do some work in the second round. This is a by-run zone fight. Yevgeny Losev, the current leader of the qualifying with 97.5 points. Let's see what he can do in the second run. The light goes green. The Supra A80, number 81 on the windshield, begins to run. One corner of the bumper is jumping, and Yevgeny Losev almost perfectly gets in OZ 1, and he narrows the line at the exit from OZ 2. He gathers the inner touch and go. He flies by like an express train. Then he makes another transition, another one, and then the last sector. So this is also a very nice run. Very good it's hard to say whether there can be any improvement. First of all, because it's very hard to improve anything against 97.5 points. And secondly, there were some questions. There was excessive handbrake in the second zone because the car kind of wanted to go inward, but Evgeny Losev said, no, 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 we need to go there. And this is what happened. He redirected his car where he wanted it to go. And as far as the rest is concerned, Evgeny Losev is Evgeny Losev. You cannot add anything more to that. You cannot take anything away from him. And you could see it very clearly that he does use the left foot in these curves. And he does it very skillfully. And it was a very nice and dynamic run through the inner touch and go. So he didn't really aim there. The car just went there. It just went by itself, went on its own. Very nice and high quality run. Because if you are aiming into that inside touch, you don't really see it from the car. And secondly, this attempt to aim at something makes you lose the entire OZ3. And it is much more expensive than that inner touch and go. And on that replay, you could see the blocked right front wheel, which made Vladimir Safonov press his jaws. I'm sure that he was very angry. And here comes a very big question. This moment shouldn't be considered separately as using the left foot for braking. It has to be considered in combination with the drift dynamics to see what happened with the speed in general. If it doesn't influence the speed in general, then there are no more penalties. And as far as... Oh, wait. This is the result. And yes, -6 for the style. 91 points. But it's still a 90 plus. And as far as the corrections are concerned, there were less corrections in the second run. But this is not everything. The speed was falling somewhere where it didn't have to do it. Okay, so this is good, but we proceed to Timofey Dobrovolsky. Congratulations to Evgeny Losev, but we've got less and less drivers who can push him down. Timofey Dobrovolsky is one of them, one of the strongest drivers, and he won the qualifying at the previous stage in St. Petersburg in very bad, very hard weather. But now he is obviously going to improve his result because he had a 0. He is carefully getting the clipping zones one after another. And here he misses touch and go 3. But for Timofey Dobrovolsky in this situation, this was the most important attempt because he had a 0 previously. So he didn't have to aspire for the victory. He only had to save himself to get it to the finish. And here he had a little bit outside, some wheels outside, I don't know how many. Some questions to the outside clip because he went too narrowly. And then another one, the result that he showed. The result is not a 0. He drifted through the scored section of the track and he crossed the finishing line. And the suspension looks stiffer now. The more grip on the rear axle, the harder it is to control, the less responsive it is. The more control it takes on itself. And the drivers want to take control of over the entire suspension. They want to keep the car under control. But on replay, you can see how the suspension works through all the unevenness, all the defects of the roads. In the qualifying, you are allowed to use fresh tires on each run. The drivers do not always do it because if the tires are well, if the grip is good, the drivers prefer not to change it. Maybe just swap them. Oh, look at this. Yeah, almost lost one of the tires. Yeah, perhaps they reduced the pressure and made some of the manipulations to compensate, to stabilize the contact spot. But now the car was more responsive. It was not a zero result. But this looked like a good run. This is the preferable situation. But we will see what the judges think about it very soon. And we are ready to finish we will finish the qualifying round very soon. We'll have a pre-race show and then the drivers parade. You will see it before top 32. And the top 32 begins at 3:30 p.m. And if we have no serious problems in the timing, it will begin on time. Our fifth group is not complete. The fourth group has already started its second runs. So globally, we've got a little bit more than an hour to complete the qualifying. And another thing about the tires. The rear tire swap manipulation was invented here, and the bulletin was issued yesterday. So between the tandem runs, the drivers are allowed to swap the rear tire. So don't be surprised if you see it happen in the hot pit area. This is because there are two left curves and one short right one. This is why the left rear wheel experiences more load than the right one, and it wears out faster. Almost similar thing happens in Nizhny Novgorod. There is a big right curve, and they also can swap the tires to avoid this excessive wear on one of the rear tires. This is 75 points. Yes, he's 18th, and there are still several drivers to say their last word. We've got a health group and everything. You can see Charles and Gocha coming up, but we will speak more about them later. But now this is Andreas Stapov at his second run. Lukoil Racing Drift Team. This is the driver who we see the last in this qualifying, and he stands higher than some of his colleagues in the personal standings. Two nice and confident curves, a little bit of flames added into this run, but Andrei and Flames are good friends. This is also another fire lady. He also made some fire shows for us also here in IDM Raceway, but thankfully no fire show happened here, just a little spark. But Andrei is a fire of a driver. Indeed, and he proves it in his second run. He pulled himself together and he demonstrated exactly what we wanted to see. This is what you want to see in the fourth group, because the further you get, the better the drivers, the higher the skills are, and the higher the personal standings rating is. And he corrected all the mistakes that he made in the previous run, especially the one that happened in the last section from OZ3 to the finish. There were the majority of the mistakes in the first run, and now everything is very nice. It was very spectacular, very beautiful. Looked like fireworks, like a festival fireworks in the middle of the run. This is a Lexus IS 200. This is not an Altezza, as you might think. This is a Lexus, and this original body kit that caught on fire. That looked cool. Not very dangerous looking, but it's very close to that arc that collects these rubber particles, and we never like when it sparks because it may catch on fire. Arkady Seregratsov with 94 points for the first run is out there. It's time for him to improve the competition, so it looks like the fight for the top lines of the rating is going to be very intensive. And this is Dmitry Yermokhin. This is not Charles, as you might think. This is not a flanker. This is Sylvia S15. You could also see number 24. Dmitry Yermokhin has had one podium this season, so he became a co-author of the victory of Star Per Stars Mall in St. Petersburg. They came to the first place. There were only two of them, Charles and Dmitry, and Alexander Antonov, who's been taking care of the cars of this team, works as an engineer of Star Per Stars Mall, stepped on the top step of the podium together with them. Arkady Tseregratsev is the defending champion of Rds Gp, is waiting for the results of Andrei Astapov. I don't think that he really cares about his result. He just needs to wait before he begins moving. This is true for the tandem runs, and the same can be said about the qualifying runs. And very soon Arkady will look at us, just like we look at him now. This is the recursion. The dash cam, the dashboard. When the car just came, Arkady was worried that the dashboard doesn't fit inside because the display is so big, like a big TV with huge dimensions. And the livery that caused lots of different comments online. This is the Siberian style, ethnic patterns, and I really like the 8-8 thing with the skulls and everything. Yes, very cool, but you can treat it differently. But this is really original. It really doesn't look like anyone else's design. This is a traditional thing for drifting. It all started with beautiful liveries. We usually have lots of little elements because we do it for spectators, and this close contact is what we want to achieve. 96.5 points, and Andrei Astapov jumps to the second line of the rating. I know it won't last long. It would be a victorious result at many events, but not here. You remember when we told you that the average score here at ADM Raceway is not very high, but here you see 97.5, 96.5. Only 1 point between Andrei Astapov and Evgeny Losev. Isn't that amazing? So what can Arkady Tseregratsev say in return? He already has 94 points, so now he's got to press it and push it. He works handbrake to direct his Fire Lady to OZ1. He makes a nice transition into OZ2. Now don't be late for the transition. Great job, and he flies through the inside touch and go just as well as Evgeny Losev. OZ3 is taken, transition touch and go 1, another 2 touch and go 2, and he draws the last curve. That is amazing. That is very good and very beautiful. Now we just need to wait for the score. 94 points was his result for the first run. And now here's the visual comparison of the two runs. All very similar. And I really like this angle from which we look at this first transition, because you can see the speed of the car very well. And you can tell that the speed was quite high in both runs. The OZ3 was slightly narrow in the first run. In the second, it was done better. And we will see it from the judges' opinion, from the judges' scores. We should also remark that this time the initiation was more aggressive. It looked braver because the weather got better now. More sun has come, at least in that initiation area, because you remember that there was a cloud above, and you can make separate weather predictions for different parts of the track. Because it's big, in here we can recall some of the tracks, like Spavov-Kashan. It can have different weather in different sections. There are local rains almost every time, almost at every event, and it causes lots of challenges, lots of difficulties for the drivers. And here a little cloud came, and it caused a local cooling of the asphalt. Now the judges will have to discuss, because this is about this 90 to 100 point space, and our sports secretary Alina Sievska asked me about the predictions, and I told her what my favorites were, Damir and Evgeny, and here they are. They have already... and this is... who is this? Danila Skarabagatov. Yes, I missed Andrei Astapov, but I always like being surprised, and Danila obviously looks well. Maybe he's listening to some music inside his headpiece. And then she asked, would anyone make a 100 points? And I said that very unlikely because every driver has his little peculiarities that can be eliminated, and all the drivers keep analyzing them to build their tactics. But for some reason, I thought that we're not going to see 100 points. I would be happy to be surprised, but the judges request for more and more replays because there are all the little subtleties. How far he got in every clipping zone, how smooth he went, how clear it was, how well he fit those zones. It takes a while for them to convert it into numbers. It's funny that some of the girls show us some open bodies, and some of them are wearing very close clothes. It's because the weather can also feel different in different parts of the autodrome, perhaps. Arkady Tserigratsev was very clear. We really liked his performance. And he says that the result 33, 34 and 27.5. Yeah, so they've deducted quite a lot. Half a point of improvement. Okay, and now Arkady Petrovich probably did the ta-ta-ta-ta when you tease your opponent. Okay, Danilas Karabagatov, who was enjoying some music inside his car. His performance was 77 points, just like Andrei Astapov. So we expect him to improve his performance just like Andrei did. Okay, there is a correction nose at 1. This is all I can say. Another transition, and then he slides along the white line. Finally, the setup was correct. Now the car isn't pushed inboard, and now Danila is going in a much more confident and comfortable manner into OZ3, leaving it a little bit narrow in the last transition. Touch and go 2. He gathers touch and go 3, and this is the run that we would like to see. This is obviously better, much better. At least as much as the first section of the track is concerned. It's very obvious. The first zone was very bad in the first run. In the second, he made some improvement. It looks very different. Maybe it isn't perfect, but close to that. It looks very decent. And moreover, we should also remark that the attempt of Andrei Astapov didn't look like super incredible. It was solid and nice, good qualifying attempt that finally took him to the second place in the qualifying protocol. 96.5 points. But there is a big group of leaders, and even with such a result, you can actually be excluded from the by-round zones. So we never know. But we've seen lots of things in our lives. So, well, you see that there is a little adhesive tape patch. This is how you fix cars in Rds Gp. This adhesive tape, this armed adhesive tape, holds the entire motorsports together. And for the first time I saw how colorful it can be only here. It can be of all possible colors. For motorsports it is a must. Especially in drifting, when you have to fix the car body very fastly. Sometimes you actually make a half of car body of this adhesive tape, and it looks okay from 3 or 5 meters. The steering work of Skarabagatov, you can see that he doesn't steer a lot, he doesn't make a lot of movements, and at the transitions he just lets the steering wheel go, and then he catches it and continues. And we continue watching. This is exactly what Maxim Akhtyamov was trying to get from our directors. He wanted to see how deep the car was in the no-go zone after OZ2. In the qualifying, every driver has to imagine that he is a leader, so it is still unclear. But here we may understand it better. So come on, OZ2 and whoa. Where was it, if not in the no-go zone? It could be on the line, maybe, but we don't know. Now we'll understand it by the score. group number 5 is already waiting. Ilya Popov is still there, and we are still waiting for him. It's great. It's good that there is no one else. And there is some interesting group. There's Charles, who had some very nice training runs, and he was the first one to perform the judges' tasks properly. There's also Gocha, who did a lot to correct some of his inaccuracies. Gocha is always one of the favorites because he is the only one who has won stages at ADM Raceway twice. So if we try to project it to this situation, then almost like on this configuration, all the events were won by Georgy Chevchan, which is a great achievement. And over 80% of all the points one could possibly get on this configuration was got by Georgy Chevchan. So this is very impressive. And this is the result of Danilas Karabagatov, and this is 93.5. That is generous, generous. Yeah, so maybe the 2 points were lost in the no-go zone. Obviously, he lacked 2 points to overcome Andrei Astapov, but at least Danilas Karabagatov got close to Ilya Fedorov. Let's see what Ilya can say in return. Arkady Tseregratsev overtook Ilya Fedorov by only half a point, and it's 2-3 wheels outside and straightening. Yes, this is a 0. It looks like Ilya Fedorov said enough. I've done enough of this qualifying, and he decided not to risk it. And there's another important thing. He shows us that the car is okay, that the car is fine. Why is it important? Because Ilya, as a very experienced driver, could see that the car was going wrong. I made some wrong setups, he said to himself, so I will not force it, because forcing it may cause some very bad results. So I'd rather not risk it. 94 points is okay. It doesn't guarantee a bye run in top 32, obviously, because Ilya Fedorov is now 5th, so he is not among the bye runners. But, well, double zeros can still happen. We don't want to see them, but having 2 double zeros in the 5th group is very unlikely. Here comes Georgy Chevchan from Takayama Forward Order. He's the leader of the personal standings. He opens the qualifying runs of the 5th group. And wow, what a generous flip. And after that, he makes a brilliant first curve. 1 wheel is outside, and then he's in the no-go zone with 2 front wheels. Then he collects the inner touch and go, the 3rd outside clip. And no, I thought he was going narrow at the exit, but according to the rules, he corrects the line, and this is the finish. This is the leader of Takayama Forward Ota, the leader of the personal standings. Let's see it once again. At this moment, it looked like a 100 points run, but then everything went wrong. I think that the wheel that slipped off the track slipped because it's very slippery there. And this is why the car was simply pushed inward. And this is how he found himself in the no-go zone, because there was nowhere else to go for him. This is at green where he slipped. Yeah, exactly. And then he had nowhere else to go. And moreover, I would suggest that it was a sort of an experiment of Georgy that wasn't successful. Every time Georgy tries something new, because he's such an experienced driver, he can afford it. And here you can see that the wheel was seriously outside. This is -2 for the line, plus -5 for 2 more wheels in the no-go zone, which makes -7. Even if all the rest was perfect, and if there are no deductions more, which is very unlikely, then this is at least 93. but I'm sure that there's less. We've got 94 and 0.5. And I'm now looking at the system, but the system is failing me. So, okay, so the qualifying leaders now are Evgeny Losев with 97.5, Andrei Astapov 96.5, Damir Idiatulin 96, Arkady Tseregradzev 94.5. I have never seen such a solid and intensive group of leaders. We need someone with 95.5. Could it be Charles? Also, we've got Gocha. Also, we need someone with 95, and now we'll have a perfect line from 97.5 to 94. But we've got guys who can do it, indeed. Charles is invited to the start, which means that very soon we will see the score of Gocha. And Dimitri is checking the safety gear on, oh, 34 for the line, almost perfect. And this is 86. Okay, why not? Don't go to the no-go zone. And you will not get these penalties. But this is the first run and everything. But if Gocha gets inside that competition bracket and hits someone in top 32, then it might also be very interesting, because Gocha is the leader of the personal standings. And in order to make it even more intriguing, we need two components. First one is the rehabilitation of the favorites who were unlucky in the first half of the season. We will not repeat who these are. And the second component is a relative failure of the current leaders. And then this entire structure of the bracket will get more dense and solid, and it will be even more interesting at the end of the season. It will be even more interesting to watch at the final of 2023. And this is the equator stage, 4 out of 7. And this is Charles Ng from Start Your Stars IMO, flanker F. They all will already have one victory. Their transmission box is in great order. All the gears work properly, and Charles is doing what he's not supposed to do in the tandem runs. But now he worked through the O's at 1 and 2. This is the medium angle, exactly as we saw it in the judge's task. And Charles never does anything more than required. This is his distinctive feature. All of his runs are always very precise. He made some corrections in O's at 3, but all the rest was very, very good. There were some corrections not only in O's at 3, but sometimes Charles's runs look as though he is fighting with his car. Like the grip is so high and so strong that at the end it turns into a struggle. Like this outside zone number 3, there was a little sway of the body, and I really want the cars throw their cars from OZA 2 to OZA 3. I want the car to slide with the entire body, because it always looks cool, it looks great, and this is what the judges want to see. But Charles preferred to go a little differently. And he made a smooth transition, but at the end he achieved the big angle where he had to be, and it looked not as spectacular as it could be, but on the other hand, this might be the action that was enough to satisfy the judges' requirements. Yeah, so OZA 3 looks kind of shabby. Then in some... No. He was always in the medium angle. So I think that he did everything right. We're waiting for the results of Charles for the first run. We can't wait to see whether he gets where we want him to be in that little gap. Of course, Charles to be higher than that. I'm sure that he wants to go to Bayern and maybe to win the qualifying. This is Nikolai Lebedinsky and Danila Skorobogatov. Nikolai Lebedinsky is the engineer of Boris Abramov, if anyone is interested. And this is Dmitry Yermokhin. Charles Eng, and this is 35 for the line. Do you see that? 31 for, and this is 92. 92 for the first run. And his teammate and the co-author of the team's victory in the previous stage, the bronze prize winner of the Gora Drive stage, Dmitry Yermokhin, comes to the starting line. This is his first qualifying run. So let's go. Driver from Krasnoyarsk on a car that he made himself. Silvia S15 with his own engineering solutions in the suspension. So this is gonna be exciting to see. This is the Kulibin of our series. He worked with the first zone, and the second looks even better. He has a little bit angle at the exit, which he shouldn't have done. If Drift Dynamic System confirms it, and he's in OZ 3 already, he's got 2 more transitions to do. 1 more left to the finish, and touch and go, and he gets the touch and go. Yes, that's a lot of angle. It even smells like Vakhtin in a way, because we remember that Alexei Vakhtin gives as much angle as he possibly can, as much as his car allows. This is quite medium for Dmitry Yermokhin. His best performance was 13 in 2020, but usually he's 17th or 18th. And now we can see how much decisive he looks, how much aggressive he is, how much he wants to break this tendency at last. And here the line seemed a little bit narrow in the first zone, but anyway, he went directly into the second curve of this first section. This is the correction. From this angle you do not see it, but the Drift Dynamic System registered the peak of 77 degrees. That is much more than 55 that was prescribed by the judges. And by the way, there is no a big speed loss. But the speed, of course, did go down. He had the speed of 119 at the entrance into OZ1 and then 113 at the exit. So this is too little because the average is around 100. So losing 7 kilometers per hour is significant. This is quite a big loss of speed. You know, also your opponent doesn't expect you to lose that much speed. He doesn't expect you to lose any speed at all. And from some drones you do not see the corrections, but this little mistake can cause a contact. We saw lots of contacts in OZ2 at this configuration. So this little correction can change a lot. It can matter. This is why you shouldn't do it like this. Moreover, the judge's task clearly says that the angle shouldn't be added. It's a mistake, said the judges. They made a list of mistakes, of 7 mistakes, and it was one of them. I really like this formulation that the judges made. Sometimes it looks like the judge's task is yelling at me as I read it. Mistake, mistake, and exclamation marks. It says, okay, I see. Just keep it easy, easy. I'm not a puppy that you're trying to train. Okay, whatever, just kidding about all that. We've got around 20 minutes to take part in the competition of our official sponsor, IMAL company. And this is 93 points, which is quite well. It says until 13 p.m. until 1 p.m. You've got 17 minutes. So run to the social media of IMAL company and to IMAL corner at the Autodrome and leave your predictions. Alexei Vakhtin is coming. He gains speed. VS team. Yevgeny Spirin was in the first group and Vakhtin is in the last. Together with the leaders of the personal standings, he misses both OZs. It doesn't look appropriate. Lamentable. Okay, at least he gets the third one. And then everything is almost normal here. He narrows down at the exit and whoa. He almost makes it a 0. So this is a miss. He misses, not even the line, he misses the pressure in the tires, or maybe the suspension setups or the pressure setups. He misses whatever he could. He misses the zones 1 and 2. Catastrophic miss. It looks like he is just all the right setups passed him by. And then closer to the finish, this weird maneuver that was quite spectacular. It was very dangerous and it is very confusing. I think it confuses the judges' board and also the imaginary chaser. What would a chaser do if he was there? It is a very tricky place because first you slow down, then you speed up. And if the leader loses too much speed, you stop, then the leader accelerates and you are left there. And this is not good for you. There was not a backward, it was 71 degrees, so it doesn't even contradict the judge's task. But the speed loss is what bothers me most of all. It was a very significant loss of speed. By 47 kilometers per hour at the finish, this is not appropriate. There was a little deceleration zone, but this is not the way it should look. You're supposed to press the gas by the time and accelerate. The speed there is usually around 67, 68 kilometers per hour, but it was 47. Let's check Dmitry Ermokhin to compare. His finishing speed was 70. Oh, this is the minimum, I think, that should be. This is what could be called appropriate. And Dmitry is not the fastest guy here, and this is not a reproach. This is just a peculiarity, this is his style. And Charles had a speed of 60, for example. A 60-70 is the normal corridor. Anton Kozlov is coming to the start, which means that we have the score of Alexei Vakhtin, and it is 66 points. So yes, there is a lot to think about. There's a lot to review between the runs to improve this performance. And we're now watching the man who is now third in the personal standings, and his best qualifying position was also third this season. He began this season with a victory. He is two-time winner of our junior series. It was renamed so that Anton stops winning, but he won both Rds West and Rds Europe. And now he's a member of Carville Racing Team here in Rds Gp. This is a great rookie season for him, and he is a real rookie, and then he angles down too much before the inside touch and go. But nevertheless, this is not a zero this far. I hope this will remain as a non-zero. And he misses the inner touch and go. And this is a very chaotic run. Anton Kozlov has quite a difficult situation. Yesterday, during the practice runs, he had a certain reserve of the tires from the year 2021. He used them to train for 2 days, setting up the suspension, trying to make the grip even, to make the car responsive. Then he took a pair of fresh tires issued in 2023, and the grip turned out to be so high that the response on the car was lost completely, and he said that he has to do everything all over again. Even though Anton is a very, very scrupulous kind of man, very pedantic, and he likes doing all this engineering work and setting his car up. He sets his car up and so that it can be very smoothly controlled, so that he doesn't have to use any more additional control organs like the handbrake or steering wheel, so that it runs itself. This car is made of very thin carbon Kevlar, and it's very easy to damage. So who is subscribed to Anton Kozlov on social media, you know that he is a very, very a nerd, and he knows how to set up his car to achieve a good balance. 83 points this far, but with all this art that he did well, I hope he can do it better in the second run. And this is the second run of the last group. Georgy Chevchan, who has not been doing very well in the first run. He made 2 big mistakes and a little bit of smaller ones, minor ones. So he had only 86 points. And now he makes another very generous flip and a very narrow line and owns at 1, while you're supposed to go wider, and the right rear wheel slips across the white line. And this is... Here he pushes off the outside edge of the track too early. He doesn't really get the clipping point, and once again, he makes lots of inaccuracies. It just didn't ring the bell. This is not Gocha's style qualifying. Even though, regardless of the 2 victories here, he never won the qualifying. His best qualifying result here was 2nd. It was in 2021. And it didn't mean a bye run back then. It absolutely didn't. Unlike now. Okay, but this is not about it. Now it is very important for Georg Jevchan to qualify as high as possible, but his teammates are very randomly located throughout the competition bracket. So it's very hard to guess what to do, how to qualify not to hit your opponent at the early stages, because it happens a lot to forward auto, this intra-team derby at the earliest stage, because when your teammates meet in semifinals, then it's okay. Having 2 cars in top 4 is only a guarantee for the team victory, but when your 2 teammates meet in top 32, that is very sad. Nothing good. And it happens to forward auto quite a lot. The most epic was the meeting of Roman Tivadar and Gocha at the last stage of the first season, when they got in top 16 and hit the wall together. And they were both candidates for the championship. And that run actually deprived both of them of all the ambitions and all the hopes. But Gocha continued fighting. He had a little bit of chance. Thankfully, his car wasn't damaged that bad, but anyway, this is not a situation that you want to see. It makes you anxious, it makes you lose balance, because before they also made a rehearsal of that run, and it was very nice, but in the real top 16 it all went wrong. And their nerves failed them, and everything was not very properly finished. And you can recall all that because the last episode of the tire battle is coming on this 27th of July. So you'll see it very soon, so you can refresh it in your mind. Don't forget to subscribe to our RDS TV, because this is where you can watch the documentary. You always expect to see some drama in the final, but this is not the kind of drama you want to see. In 2019, Gocha simply qualified and became the champion, and that's it. But here, oh, wait, 34, 35, and this is 96. Isn't it what you were craving for? Hey, Damir already has 96, and Damir cannot move Gocha now. But who can Charlie push? He had 92 points for the first run, and here he comes. The run in, 200 meters of run in, and once again he shifts to the side, and then he gets back to the track, and this is the wide curve and transition. He doesn't let the gas go even for a second. Then he makes a nice and sharp transition, works through the inner touch and go, and slides along the wide line, maybe touched the ground outside a little bit, but this is a very wide line. This is a perfect for the chaser, which is still imaginary, but I think that his chaser is gonna be there in top 32. But we will see it later. I was really surprised to see this thing. I don't know whether it was good or bad, but it was kind of confusing and unusual to watch. Once we reach that spot and replay, I will tell you. I will take a close look and I will tell you. It looks like Charles N heard me about the angle stability, and now this is a much more stable run. This is the moment on the right hand side. You could see Charles slowing down his car too much. In the transition, the car almost stuck its nose into the ground before it continued moving. And it looked from outside like the speed was too little. I think Denis did the same, but in a different area. We've got two drivers with the best attempt of 96. That is Damir Diatulin and Dmitry Yermokhin. And their worst runs have only half a point between them. This is why Damir is third and Dmitry is fourth. And Gocha didn't move Dmitry Yermokhin anywhere because his first run was worse. And Gocha is now only fifth. And then comes Arkady Tseregratsev. And this is not the end. There are more 90-plus results because in the same club we've got Ilya Fedorov, Danila Skarabagatov, and Roman Tivadar and Charles Eng. But the judges are still thinking about his second score. But our evil judges closed the door right in the face of Grigory Gusev. They gave him 89.5. You can see how the car is falling on the front axle, but the line was quite okay. It was quite clean. So if there was any slowdown, it was exactly in the place where you're allowed to do so. The flanker obviously doesn't like slowing down with the angle, so you have to use the classical ways. But why? Wait, we're still waiting for Dmitry Yermokhin's results. So I'm sorry, Gocha is fourth this far. Okay, so we are back, and now our top four, it looks the same. Evgeny Losев, Andrei Astapov, Damir Diatulin, and Georgy Chevchan. The fifth is Arkady Tseregratsev, and Dmitry Yermokhin is now, I don't know which one he is, because we haven't seen his second run yet. And we haven't seen the score of Charles, which is quite well, and is 95. 95. Okay, so there is an improvement. It's not enough to get where we want him to be and where he wants to be. So he is now fifth, moving Arkady Tseregratsev down. But can Dmitry Yermokhin move all of them? We will see now. And we can try to draw our own conclusions and also share our feelings. Come on, hold your car well, and oh, he misses it. He misses it. This is not the right way. Bye-bye, owes it one. He loses 7 points already, then he misses that go. Then the line is very narrow in nose at 3, so this is either the tire that fails him or some corrections, and they didn't bring him any luck at all. This is a 0, I think. And maybe I'm not that far from the truth, because I don't think the judges can give him anything for such a finish. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. This is not the tire, or wait. Oh. He went to the scales. Yes, this is a 0. This is a 0. It would be much more epic if at this high speed he would fly to the scales and then stop there. Okay, so all top 9 has 90+ result. Cool. And we say that this is a hard track. If it's not 90+, then you are not in top 10 even. Wow. And it may get even more dense, because we've got Ilya Popov, we've got the second attempt of Anton Kozlov and Alexei Vakhtin. And for some reason, Anton Kozlov is not even there. And I also worry about him. We don't have the 3 minutes rule, or do we? And the start judge is not there as well. Where's everyone? Everyone gave Dmitry Yermokhin a 0 and disappeared. And the judges' tower is still there. I just want to see the judges. Where are they? Are they calling the next participant to the start? Yes, Alexei Vakhtin is probably coming, and this is going to be his turn. Anton Kozlov will close the performance of the 5th group. And we can't wait to see the green disc Z of Ilya Popov with a fresh engine. Ilya Popov did have some stops out there. His engine was very bad and then it just died. This is Alexei Vakhtin. He begins his second run. This car looks like a toy when it's clean like this, it's shiny, but now Alexei Vakhtin has collected the second OZ, looking more or less confident, makes a transition. The inside touch, and he adds more angle, then he adds more, then he's late to entering OZ3, leaves it too early, another transition, and here he's doing well, here he misses, and then he takes the last transition as well. I think this is gonna be an improvement because the first run was a big failure. He totally missed all the setups, and compared to the previous season when Alexei Vakhtin first joined our series in ADM Raceway, the first run was better than the previous. The previous year he had 63, but he was just gaining experience, which he now has, and he is using it a lot. It is very helpful to him, but he's not being lucky here at ADM Raceway. We can only say that now, at the moment, Yevgeny Spirin is ahead of his teammate, and he is 16 points ahead of him. Let's see what the judges can tell him for the second run. Here we can congratulate Syntec Fresh Marketplace for having two leaders without opponents. Even if we imagine absolutely cool runs of Anton Kozlov and Ilya Popov, which is quite unlikely because he has only one run to do. So even if the two other drifters will move the leaders down, they will still remain in top 4. And Evgeny Losov and Damir Idiaturin will get to top 32 through bye runs, and they will be waiting for their opponents in top 16. This is a good statement. Is this the renaissance of Evgeny Losov and Damir Idiaturin? We've been waiting for it, and it might happen today. Even though this is not gonna be easy in top 16, many drivers will have difficulties even today, but 10 drivers with 90+ results and so much charge and so much energy, this is gonna be hard. We've got lots of drivers of 80+ results who are very fit, who are doing great at this track, so we can't wait to see the tandem runs. And in the meanwhile, you can see Anton Kozlov and his Pro Babka with a new engine, 4.2 liters V8 M62 B44, which was so its volume was reduced to 4.2, and now we're getting back to the score of Alexei Vakhtin. This is an improvement to 72, and it's still less than Yevgeny Spirin got for the first time this season. Yevgeny Spirin spread his wings. Okay, so 4.2, and this is an interesting combined kind of an engine. The nightmare of Stuttgart and Munich engineers. But it's good that the engine came at the right moment, and now Anton Kozlov is continuing his battle this season. And the car squats on the rear axle. The two first zones are taken very well by Anton Kozlov. And this is the Anton Kozlov that we've known. This is the one that his opponents from Rds West and Rds Europe were afraid of. And this is the last sector. And yes, he takes touch and go 3. This is cool. This is the improvement we've been craving for, because in the first attempt he didn't look convincing. And now you can see how well the wheel is rubbing the arc. Even at the flip, you can see that there was a lot of smoke coming out. I was even worried about the condition of the engine. He still angled down a little in the outside zone, number 3, but it wasn't very critical. It wasn't as critical as in the first run when he almost straightened out. And here, this amount of smoke is very illustrative. I mean, it illustrates how soft and how big stroke the suspension has. It is designed so soft to ensure good grip. The right side is not very good. You can see that it's been damaged, but it's a DIY car body that was manufactured with his grandmother's saucepan, and this is not a joke. This is why the car is nicknamed Pro Babka, and Babka is a granny. This is a high-tech. In Russia, high-tech is born in such garages. This is how it's made. Our country has always been famous for its skillful engineers and technical specialists. But what? Ilya Popov hasn't arrived. Is he out? There is no health group. There is a tractor. So it looks like we're just waiting for the score of Anton Kozlov. And this is a technical failure. Yeah, mechanical failure has just been confirmed. This is a big pity. Another ticket to the Byron happiness goes to Charles. Yeah, but everything may change when we see the results of Anton Kozlov. If it's 95.5 minimum, then it is enough, because the quality of points will not give Anton Kozlov an advantage, because Charles has 92 in the first run, the worst one, and his second was 95. So this is the one that Anton Kozlov has to surpass if he wants to be in the Byron area. He's done everything he could, and now the question is what the judges say about it. At the top of the qualifying protocol, there is Evgeny Losев, Andrei Astapov, and Damir Diatulin. What if Anton Kozlov overtakes them? Well, we don't know. We cannot tell. The fact that Andrei Astapov, Evgeny Losев, Damir Diatulin and Georgievchan are in the Byron area is a fact. There is no doubt. So we're just waiting for the result to see whether Anton Kozlov can hit the Byron's area or he has to compete in top 32. And we would be very happy to see him in top 32, because we are interested in seeing as many tandem runs as possible. 34.5, and this is 96. And this is 96. Bravo. Bravo, Anton Kozlov. So he flies into the top of the qualifying protocol. So let's see the rating. Let's see the protocol. It's final edition. Charles will have to fight for top 16 now, just like all of his teammates. So the first one is Evgeny Losев. No double zeros, but another mechanical failure. Evgeny Losев, another qualifying victory. This is phenomenal, a brilliant run. Just like Andrei Astapov and Damir Diatulin and Gocha, of course, he did what we expected to see. Anton Kozlov also 96 in the second run. He found the right setups on time. Charles Eng is 6th with 95 points, and then comes Arkady Tseregrazov, half a point less. Ilya Fedorov, half a point less as well. Number 9, Danilas Karabagatov, also half a point less, 93.5. The 10th is Dmitry Yermokin with 93 points. Half a point difference. This is all very, very precise. The next is Roman Tivadar with 92 points, and then there comes Grigory Gusev. We've got 11 drivers in the 90-plus club. Number 12, Grigory Gusev from Lukoil Racing Drift team. Then Denis Starakapud next to him, 2 teammates. Then number 14, Leonid Schneider. Nikita Shakeup is 15th. Vladislav Popov is 16th. He rounds up the top half of the bracket. Then Anton Klipko is gonna meet Vladislav Popov, 83 points. Then Maxim Grossman from Time Up, Anatoly Sherbak with 80 points, he's 19th. Then Evgeny Spirin is best qualifying this season, but we don't know because we've got some more to do. But at least he did better than his teammate. Sergei Kabargin is the 21st. Then Timofey Dobrovolsky after a safe session. Then Boris Abramov comes 23rd, and Anton Bedrienko is the 24th with 74 points. Evgeny Spirin was 16th in St. Petersburg. And now Alexei Vakhtin is 25th, and the same score has got Denis Smigal. 2 Alteza staying next to each other. One is Alteza, another is Lexus, but who cares? And Nikolai Garkovenko is 27th. He surprised all of us with his low performance. He made them play mathematics, and he only got 42 points. Okay, so now we take a break. We'll see each other very soon at the opening ceremony. And those who are watching us online, so we will meet around 3 p.m. for the pre-race and the opening ceremony. And the next stage is top 32.
максимум.
Наша машина себя здесь очень уверенно чувствует.
Давайте шевелитесь!
Молодым и учиться, учиться и учиться еще.
Я был счастлив тем, что это происходит здесь и сейчас.
Можешь выигрывать, не можешь, занимайся балетом.
РДС Европа в Санкт-Петербурге. Впервые на автодроме Игора Драйв. 5 и 6 августа. 4-й этап РДС Европа состоится в рамках большого фестиваля скорости и музыки Гараж Фест Игора Драйв. Подробности на сайте rdseurope.ru.